Chapter 549. Harry Ball. Crack. A clear and melodious sound resounded in this area. Ningyu slammed his palm heavily on the cauldron. The low-quality cauldron did not even last a second in Ningyu's hand before it shattered. Whoosh! The shattering of the cauldron silenced the surrounding martial artists. Ha ha ha! After a short period of silence, bursts of laughter erupted from all around. Ningyu is too good. He failed to refine the true martial pill and even shattered the cauldron. You can't blame Ningyu. After all, that cauldron was too weak. How could it have withstood his scorching heat? Hee, this is going to be fun. Ningyu failed to refine the true martial pill. I wonder if he will kneel down and apologize to Yi Tian. In front of so many people, Ningyu won't go back on his words, will he? Hard to say. After all, kneeling down to Yi Tian in front of so many people is a disgrace to him. Ningyu's face did not change in the slightest when he heard the discussions of the surrounding martial artists. It was as if the matter had nothing to do with him. On the contrary, Ningyu moved his feet and walked forward. Stop! Yi Tian reprimanded him. Ningyu, you have to accept your defeat. You lost. Hurry up and hand over the square alchemy furnace, then kneel down and admit your mistake. I will consider this matter over and will not mention it again in the future. Ningyu stopped in his tracks and said, I seem to have heard you say that as long as I can refine a supreme-grade true martial dan before you, this battle will be considered my victory. I did say that. Yi Tian raised his eyebrows and said in disdain, but your cauldron is broken and you have no more ingredients. What are you going to use to refine the true martial pill? How are you going to compete with me? The cauldron is broken and the ingredients are gone, but that doesn't mean I can't refine the true martial pill. Ningyu smiled and ignored Yi Tian. He turned around and walked away. Stop right there. Today, no matter what. Seeing that Ningyu was ignoring him, Yi Tian's face instantly darkened. However, just as he was about to scold Ningyu, his eyes widened and his face was filled with confusion. Ningyu stopped in front of the largest pill furnace fragment and kicked it away. Voila! Just as Ningyu kicked the fragments of the pill furnace away, the martial warriors in the area revealed extremely shocked expressions. Many martial artists stood rooted to the ground, speechless for a long time. True martial dan. Supreme-grade true martial dan. What was hidden under the fragments of the alchemical furnace was a top-grade true martial dan. Who would have thought that Ningyu would actually refine the best-grade true martial dan? To them, this was a deep irony. Picking up the true martial pill on the ground, Ningyu returned to Yi Tian and said indifferently, If you're willing to bet, you must be willing to lose. Hand over the token to enter the Danwu pool. Crack, crack. Looking at the pill in Ningyu's hand, Yi Tian clenched his fists so hard that they made cracking sounds. His eyes revealed a hint of viciousness. However, this viciousness was quickly concealed by him. Other than Ningyu, no one else noticed it. Hand over the pill and let me check. Yi Tian said coldly, As long as I can confirm that the pill in your hand is a top-grade true martial dan, I will naturally hand over the token. If I find out that the pill in your hand is not a top-grade true martial dan, not only will you kneel down, you will also have to kowtow to me a few times. I don't trust you, Ningyu said bluntly, not afraid of offending Yi Tian. You don't trust me? Yi Tian couldn't believe his ears at all. He said gloomily, I'm an early-stage 5th-grade alchemist. Don't tell me I can't even differentiate a top-grade true martial dan. That's hard to say. Ningyu shrugged and said, Humans make mistakes, dogs stumble. You might be the one who stumbles. When Ningyu's words fell into Lu Wei's ears, she couldn't help but laugh out loud. However, when she saw Yi Tian's livid face, Lu Wei quickly stopped laughing. Woof woof. Lu Wei stopped laughing, but Harry Ball, who was in her arms, laughed happily and didn't have any intention of stopping. Yi Tian was very angry. He was on the verge of exploding. Being laughed at by Lu Wei was fine, but now he was being laughed at by a dog? Not only his aunt couldn't tolerate it, no one could. If you laugh again, I will skin you alive, Yi Tian said fiercely. Xiao. Hearing that, Harry Ball was angry. What kind of cat or dog dared to say such harsh words to him? And Quan didn't put him in his eyes. Harry Ball's anger was much more powerful than Yi Tian's. He instantly broke free from Lu Wei's embrace and appeared in front of Yi Tian in the blink of an eye. Rip! Its front paw stretched out, and when Yi Tian was caught off guard, it ruthlessly tore off a large piece of Yi Tian's clothes. Then, Harry Ball waved the spoils of war in its paw and looked at Yi Tian provocatively. I'm so angry, I'm so angry! Yi Tian was already on the verge of exploding. Now that Harry Ball had messed with him, he completely went berserk. After going berserk, Yi Tian unleashed his soul force at the beginning of 5th grade soul force and pressed it down on Furball. Ningyu, hurry up and save Harry Ball. Lu Wei's soul force had increased to rank 3 soul force, so she was very sensitive to Yi Tian's soul force pressure. Don't panic. Harry Ball should be able to handle it. Ningyu didn't act immediately. In other words, Ningyu didn't think that Harry Ball would be injured. Harry Ball's current appearance was clearly disdainful of Yi Tian. Ningyu also wanted to see how abnormal Harry Ball, whose bloodline was said to be even thicker than Dark Emperor's, was. Woof woof. Being enveloped by Yi Tian's soul force, Harry Ball seemed to be enjoying it. It even made a face at Yi Tian. What is that little white guy? Are you deaf? Didn't you hear it barking? That's right, it should be a dog. As for what rank it is, I don't know. It's definitely not a low rank. Yi Tian's soul force is at rank 5 soul force. A small dog that can remain unscathed under his soul force can't be a low-rank monster beast. Now, many students were very interested in Harry Ball. After all, a small dog that could face Yi Tian head-on was indeed very rare. This dog isn't simple. In the instant that soul force pressure pressed down on Harry Ball, Yi Tian felt that Harry Ball was extraordinary. Generally speaking, even a rank 5 martial artist with the same soul force as him might not be able to withstand his soul force pressure. For Harry Ball to be able to withstand his soul force pressure, it was at least a rank 5 monster beast. A rank 5 monster beast was equivalent to a human Yuan Dan realm martial artist. Because he cultivated his soul force all year round, Yi Tian's cultivation was only at the late stage of the true martial realm. If he really fought with Harry Ball here, the one who would lose in the end would definitely be Yi Tian. Ningyu, it's fine if you don't dare to let me inspect the elixir, but you actually let a dog come and cause trouble? Yi Tian's eyes turned as he quickly thought of a countermeasure. Chapter 550. The pill exploded. What? What Ningyu refined was not a supreme-grade true martial pill, but a low-grade true martial pill. Humph. I have said that it would be strange if Ningyu could refine a supreme-grade true martial pill with such a low-quality furnace. I suspect that the true martial pill he refined was not even a low-grade one. Not even a low-grade one? That is impossible. Ningyu refined a supreme-grade true martial pill last time. There is no reason that he could not even refine a low-grade true martial pill this time. Let's wait and see. Yes, now let's see if Ningyu dares to let Yi Tian check the pill. Hearing Yi Tian's words, the surrounding martial artists began to discuss again. However, this time, the focus of everyone's discussion had shifted from Harry Ball to the true martial pill. Ningyu, are you guilty? The reaction of the surrounding martial artists gave Yi Tian a feeling that his plan had succeeded. He said coldly, Now I suspect that what you refined was not a low-grade true martial pill, but a fake. Wow. Yi Tian's words caused the originally quiet area to become noisy once again. Fake? Could it be that Ningyu did not even refine a low-grade true martial pill? It is hard to say. Ningyu used a low-quality furnace. It is reasonable that he could not refine a low-grade true martial pill. Maybe Ningyu had prepared the pill a long time ago, and took it out at the last moment to get away with it. Yes. You must check the pill. Yes, we must check the pill. In an instant, the surrounding martial artists sided with Yi Tian and shouted that they wanted to check the pill. Yi Tian looked at Ningyu provocatively. He raised the corner of his mouth and said to himself, "As long as you let me check, even if you refined a supreme-grade true martial pill, I have a way to change it to a low-grade one. This time, I am doomed to ruin your reputation." Ningyu frowned slightly and said indifferently, "It's not impossible to check the dawn, but you're just a 5th-grade primary alchemist, so you shouldn't be able to distinguish the difference between a top-grade true martial dan and a low-grade true martial dan." "I can't tell?" Yi Tian pointed at his own nose and laughed wildly. "What a joke! I can refine the best quality true martial dan as easy as taking something out of my pocket. You actually said that I can't tell the difference between them. Hee, the ignorant are truly fearless. If that's the case, I won't make things difficult for you," Ningyu said unhurriedly. "As long as you can refine a top-grade true martial dan, you win." Voila! Ningyu's words made the surrounding martial artists a little dumbfounded. Arrogant! Arrogant! One had to know that Yi Tian was an early 5th-grade alchemist. Coupled with the golden cauldron furnace, not to mention the supreme-grade true martial dan, even the transcendent-grade true martial dan could be refined. Has Ningyu gone mad? Now I'm wondering how he became a core disciple of the Sacred Institute. That's right. Yi Tian can easily refine the supreme-grade true martial dan. It doesn't make sense for Ningyu to do so. Doesn't make sense? Haha, in my opinion, Ningyu has already given up. What he's doing is nothing but delaying for time. If I'm not wrong, Ningyu should be informing Dean Dongfang, hoping that Dean Dongfang can come and help him out. What the crowd didn't know was that while they were discussing, Dongfang Ji, who was behind a house not far away, was frowning deeply. In fact, when Ningyu and Yi Tian began to compete in alchemy, Dongfang Ji had already come over. However, he wanted to see Ningyu's alchemy level, so he didn't intervene. When Ningyu refined the best quality true martial dan, Dongfang Ji was very pleased and almost wanted to come forward to testify for Ningyu. However, when he heard the crowd's words, he stopped and chose to wait and see. Now that he came forward at this time, the crowd would definitely think that he was partial to Ningyu. What the hell is this kid doing? Does he really think that Yi Tian can't refine the best quality true martial dan? Dongfang Ji was a little worried. Based on his understanding of Yi Tian, he knew that Yi Tian could easily refine the best quality true martial dan. "You're courting death." Yi Tian showed a touch of ruthlessness and said coldly, "Open your eyes and watch. Not only will I refine the true martial dan, but the lowest quality will also be supreme." The moment his voice fell, Yi Tian flicked his wrist and threw the golden tripod alchemy furnace into the air. Then, he grabbed a medicinal material with his left hand and threw it into the alchemy furnace. At the same time, a light purple flame appeared on the fingertips of his right hand. Purple serene fire. Purple serene fire is the 382nd flame on the exotic fire list. With the purple serene fire and the strength of Yi Tian's early 5th-grade soul force, I estimate that he can refine the best quality true martial dan in 10 minutes. 10 minutes? You are behind the times. In my opinion, Yi Tian will be able to refine a highest-grade true martial dan within 5 minutes. Furthermore, it is extremely likely that he will break the limit of refining a highest-grade true martial dan within the Sky Devil region's younger generation and refine a highest-grade true martial dan within 3 minutes. It's impossible in 3 minutes, but in 5 minutes, Yi Tian should be able to refine the best quality true martial dan. You're all wrong. Yi Tian doesn't want to refine the best quality true martial dan. He wants to refine the supreme true martial dan. Swish. The last warrior's words turned everyone's attention to Yi Tian. At this time, Yi Tian kept throwing medicinal materials into the alchemy furnace with his left hand, and the temperature of the flame in his right hand kept increasing. Moreover, Yi Tian's early 5th grade soul force was constantly injected into the golden tripod alchemy furnace, refining the medicinal materials. Ningyu, Yi Tian can't really refine the supreme true martial Dan, can he? Seeing Yi Tian's appearance, Lu Wei was a little worried and said. Ningyu smiled and said, "Don't worry, the supreme true martial Dan is not that easy to refine." That being said, I'm still a little worried, Lu Wei said while clenching her teeth. Don't worry, if Yi Tian continues to refine like this, the Dan will explode in less than a minute. Ningyu waved his hand, signaling Lu Wei not to worry. Dead duck, you dare to say that the Dan will explode in less than a minute? Yi Tian heard Ningyu's words completely. Yi Tian snorted and said gloomily, "If I really explode in less than a minute, I will personally kneel down and apologize to you." Hee Yi Tian, you have to remember what you said. Don't go back on your words. Ningyu said with a faint smile. Of course I will remember what I said. Yi Tian said proudly, not putting Ningyu in his heart at all. Speaking of which, you can't be thinking of what? Bang. However, as soon as Yi Tian finished speaking, his eyes widened, and his facial expression became extremely interesting. This muffled sound made the surrounding warriors' eyes fall on the golden tripod alchemy furnace. Bang bang bang! After the muffled sound, another 3 muffled sounds were heard. Swish! Hearing these muffled sounds, the warriors in the area instantly quieted down. It was so quiet that even breathing could be heard clearly. Gulp. Chapter 551. A Villain Pill Explosion. With Yi Tian's alchemy level, coupled with the assistance of the golden cauldron and the purple serene fire, the pill still exploded. That's right, even horses stumble. Even Yi Tian's true martial Dan had an explosion. In the future, when we refine Dawn, we must be extremely careful. What do you guys think? Suddenly, a true martial realm early-stage martial artist hesitated and said, "Will Yi Tian kneel down and apologize to Ningyu?" The words of the true martial realm early-stage martial artist made the originally noisy area quiet down again. This time, the silence was abnormally terrifying. Similar to the kind of deathly silence. Many students shifted their gazes towards Yi Tian. All of them wanted to see if Yi Tian would really kneel down and admit his mistake as he had promised Ningyu. Yi Tian stood in the same place, looking at the medicinal liquid bursting out of the golden cauldron, his face gloomy. Pill explosion. Since he started learning alchemy, this was the first time a pill exploded. In the past, when his soul force was low and the cauldron quality was very poor, the pill did not explode, but this time, it actually exploded. Yi Tian, if you agree to bet, you must accept your loss. I did not force you. Ningyu crossed his arms in front of his chest and said indifferently. A gentleman's word is as fast as a whip. If you admit that you are a villain, you don't have to kneel down and apologize to me. You! At this time, Yi Tian's heart was filled with mixed feelings, as if he had eaten shit. What was originally in the bag turned out to be such a change, which was completely unexpected for Yi Tian. It seems that Yi Tian wants to act shamelessly. It should be. Yi Tian will never kneel down and apologize to Ningyu. If Yi Tian really kneels down, he will not only lose his face, but also his master Danshenzi's. Yeah, Danshenzi is an 8th grade alchemist. If he knew that his last disciple was defeated in alchemy and knelt down, he will definitely be furious. There's nothing he can do even if he's furious. Looking at Ningyu's attitude, Yi Tian has 2 choices today. First, he can admit that he's a vile person and doesn't have to kneel down to apologize. Second, he must kneel down to apologize. Yi Tian was already furious. Hearing the undisguised discussions of the students around him, he became even more furious. His chest heaved up and down uncontrollably on the verge of exploding. Although he really wanted to refute, the truth was right in front of him, and he was powerless to argue. The current situation was very disadvantageous to him. Once Ningyu got serious, he would have no way to deal with it. What's your decision? Do you want to kneel down and apologize to me, or do you want to admit that you're a vile person? Since he had won, Ningyu did not want to waste time with Yi Tian. After all, he still had important things to do. Advancing the Red Demon Sword to the Monarch rank required 200,000 transcendent-grade origin crystals and a quiet place to advance. Ningyu had to find all of these things. He even had to find a place for Lu Wei to stay. After all, their family couldn't stay in the storage ring forever. It was impossible for the Alchemist Hall Master, Lung Mian, and the others to stay in the storage ring for a long time. If they could find a place to stay, they could save a lot of trouble. Most importantly, Li Tongtian had already been treated by Sun Jiangwen. Now that he was more or less recovered, it was time for him to leave the storage ring. However, Ningyu did not want to let Yi Tian go so easily. He continued, "Before you make your decision, hand over the token to enter the Dan Wu pool. Ningyu, I'll hand the token to you, and we'll write off today's matter. How about it?" Yi Tian took the token in his hand and said, "Also, I can introduce you to my master, and let you become his disciple." Whoosh! Yi Tian's words immediately caused a stir among the surrounding students. Introduce Ningyu to Danshenzi? Become Danshenzi's disciple? One had to know that Danshenzi had already announced a long time ago that he would no longer accept disciples. With Yi Tian's talent in alchemy, perhaps Danshenzi would make an exception. If I were Ningyu, I would definitely agree to Yi Tian's request. Only a fool wouldn't agree. In the capital, there are at least 10,000 people who want to become Danshenzi's disciple. That's right. Even some 6th-grade alchemists who have been famous for a long time want to become Danshenzi's disciple. The surrounding students were shocked to the extreme by the news that Yi Tian had thrown out. There were even some students who revealed looks of jealousy. The reaction of these students was clearly within Yi Tian's expectations, and he was very satisfied. However, when he looked at Ningyu, he was dumbfounded. This was because Ningyu did not listen to his words at all. "Don't waste your breath. Hurry up and hand over the token." As soon as Ningyu said this, he dashed out quickly and disappeared from Yi Tian's side in a flash. "My token!" Yi Tian looked down at his empty palm and could not help but shout, "Ningyu, take my token." "Hey Yi Tian, you're wrong." Ningyu interrupted Yi Tian and said calmly, "It's not your token, it's mine. It seems like you don't want to kneel down and admit your mistake. If that's the case, I won't accompany you anymore. I'm Yi Tian." As he spoke, Ningyu pulled Lu Wei's hand and walked away. It was not until Ningyu and Lu Wei were far away that Yi Tian came to his senses. "Ningyu, I'm not done with you!" Yi Tian shouted like a madman. "Tomorrow, I will challenge you again in the alchemy competition. I hope you won't be a coward then." Ningyu, who was in the distance, stopped in his tracks. "The alchemy competition is going to be held tomorrow?" Frowning, Ningyu mumbled, "It seems like I have one more thing to do." Ningyu had to participate in the alchemy competition organized by the Alchemy Union, no matter what. After all, Ningyu had promised President Zhou of Tianxian City's Alchemy Union that he would represent the Alchemy Union to participate in the alchemy competition. After delaying the alchemy competition for so long, it was finally going to be held. Ningyu had one more thing to do, which was to find President Zhou and participate in the alchemy competition. What a headache! Thinking about this, Ningyu could not help but quicken his steps. Soon, he disappeared from everyone's sight. "I'm afraid that tomorrow's alchemy competition will be another fierce battle. It's hard to say. I heard that the Alchemy Union has the intention to open up the alchemy competition and make it a grand event for the Great Xia Kingdom. At that time, not only will the peerless genius of the Alchemy Union, Ren Xiangtian, participate in the alchemy competition, but some hidden 6th and even 7th grade alchemists will also send their last disciple to participate. Not only the last disciple of the alchemists, I heard that Danwu College will also send a group of disciples to participate. It seems that the alchemy competition this time will select 3 alchemy geniuses to represent Danwu College in the 100 Academy battle. Yes, let's go and register too. Who knows, we might stand out. The registration period is this afternoon. We can't miss it. Let's go and guard there now. Yi Tian did not care about the discussions of the students around him. His face was cold as he said fiercely. Chapter 552. Divine Physician Shop. Ning Yu and Lu Wei didn't stop at all. After leaving the Danwu pool, they hurried towards Dongfang Ji's residence. These few days, Lu Wei had been staying at Dongfang Ji's place. Ning Yu had to thank her no matter what. If it wasn't for Dongfang Ji, Lu Wei might have already been captured by the Imperial clan. Just based on this, Ning Yu had to go over personally to thank Dongfang Ji. When did Ning Yu return? Not sure. They seem to have come from the Danwu pool. Danwu pool? Could it be that Ning Yu returned a long time ago and has been cultivating in the Danwu pool? But that Lu Wei beside him isn't a cultivator from Danwu College. Don't tell me she just came out of the Danwu pool too? That's nothing. Lu Wei has been staying at Dongfang Ji's place for the past few days. In my opinion, it's very likely that Dongfang Ji has taken her in as his final disciple. It's understandable that she's cultivating in the Danwu pool for a period of time. Didn't Shuiyu Pavilion's mysterious faction announce it? They told Lu Wei to hurry to Shuiyu Pavilion before tonight. Otherwise, they'll get rid of her parents. I wonder if she'll go. Lu Wei can't be that stupid. Furthermore, with Ning Yu's help, Dean Dongfang will probably come personally. Because Ning Yu obtained first place in Danwu College's Sacred Institution examination, the cultivators of Danwu College were more familiar with him. Along the way, people kept pointing at them and gossiping. Comparatively speaking, people were more concerned about Lu Wei. Ning Yu didn't take the students' discussions to heart. Instead, he quickened his pace. Dongfang Ji's residence wasn't too far from the Danwu pool. In a short while, Ning Yu arrived at the entrance of the courtyard. Why are you here? As soon as he stopped in front of the courtyard, Ning Yu saw a familiar figure. It wasn't Dongfang Ji, but Yan Hui. At this moment, Yan Hui's face was filled with disappointment. When he saw Ning Yu, his expression turned for the better. Ning Yu, there's something I need Dean Dongfang's help with, but he's not here. Yan Hui hesitated for a moment, but he still said, I heard he went to a meeting and won't be back for a while. Not here. Ning Yu was taken aback, then he seemed to have thought of something and said, Yan Hui, what matter do you need Dean Dongfang's help with? Why don't you tell me? About my master. Yan Hui gritted his teeth and said, his old man's illness can't be delayed any longer. Towards the end, Yan Hui's voice became softer and softer, even choking a little. Ning Yu's expression changed a little. To be able to make a grown man like Yan Hui cry, it seemed like he was really forced into a corner. In other words, his master's illness could not be delayed any longer. Let's go. I'll go with you. Yan Hui's master, Ning Yu, was still remembered. With a rank 6 soul power, he was paralyzed in bed all year round. At that time, Ning Yu discovered that Yan Hui's master was severely injured, and his body was heavily injured. However, at that time, Ning Yu's soul power was only at the rank 4 level. Even if he discovered Yan Hui's master's condition, it would be difficult to treat him. Moreover, Ning Yu and Yan Hui were not that close at that time. In addition, he was busy, so naturally, he would not waste time and energy to think of a way to treat Yan Hui's master. Now that things have come to this is the only way. Hearing Ning Yu's words, Yan Hui's eyes lit up, but he quickly fell silent. In Yan Hui's opinion, although Ning Yu was a core disciple of Danwu College's Sacred Institute, it was very likely that he would be helpless when it came to his master's illness. There's no time to lose. Let's hurry up and go. Seeing Yan Hui's expression, Ningyu did not expose him. He directly pulled Lu Wei and walked out of Danwu College. What Yan Hui did not know was that in Ningyu's storage ring, there was a peak rank 7 elixir master, Sun Jiangwen, and an early stage rank 8 elixir master, alchemy master. Both of their methods and abilities were much stronger than Dongfang Ji's. I heard that this afternoon is the registration phase for the alchemy competition? On the way, Ningyu and Yan Hui began to chat. That's right. This afternoon is the registration phase. Yan Hui nodded. There might be a lot of people participating in the alchemy competition this time, so the Alchemy Union has decided to register in advance so that the competition can officially start tomorrow. Does everyone have to register? Ningyu asked. That's right. Yan Hui explained. I heard that there are 2 forms of registration. The first is for the Alchemy Union to register as a group. The second is for individuals to register individually. What's the difference? Ningyu asked again. There's no difference. It's just that they register in the name of the Alchemy Union. Their final results will be recorded in their respective Alchemy Union. Their ranking will directly determine the allocation of resources for the Alchemy Union in each city next year. Yan Hui said. Fortunately, the registration is in the afternoon. I'll go take a look at Master Yan Hui's condition first before heading to the Alchemy Union to look for President Zhou Tong, Ningyu mumbled. Actually, Ningyu was a little worried. The agreed time with Zhou Tong had already passed. Zhou Tong might have already returned to Tianxian City. After all, if he couldn't find Ningyu, Zhou Tong wouldn't be able to send out any students to participate in the alchemy competition. If he continued to stay in the capital, it would only increase his consumption. We're here. At this moment, Yan Hui stopped in front of a shop. Miracle Physician Shop. Senior Brother Yan, you're finally back. Just as Ningyu and the rest entered the shop, a chubby boy ran over with an anxious expression. Hurry up and take a look. Master is already unconscious. What? Hearing the chubby boy's words, Yan Hui was shocked. As he walked into the room, he asked, When did Master faint? Wasn't he still fine when I left? 10 minutes after you left, Master fainted, the chubby boy said hurriedly. Before he fainted, Master kept talking about you and asked me to call you back. How could I leave Master here alone? Fortunately, you came back in time. Otherwise, I really wouldn't know what to do. As he spoke, the chubby boy was on the verge of crying. Early stage Xiantian, early stage 2nd grade soul force. Ever since he entered the shop, Ningyu noticed that the chubby boy was different. When he first came to the Miracle Physician Shop, the chubby boy was only at the Hotian stage and had a peak 1st grade soul force. How long had it been? His cultivation had risen to early stage Xiantian and his soul force had reached early stage 2nd grade. Such a speed of advancement was even faster than when he was in the past. Creak. At this moment, Yan Hui opened the door and entered the room where his master was. As soon as he stepped into the room, Ningyu noticed something unusual. Early stage 7th grade. Ningyu was unusually shocked. Previously, Yan Hui's master's soul force was only early stage 6th grade. How did it reach early stage 7th grade now? Chapter 553. Chapter 553 Death Give Full Treatment. Wait. While Ningyu was still in shock, Yan Hui had already arrived at the bedside and released his soul force in an attempt to probe his master's injuries. Upon seeing this, Ningyu hurriedly said, Your master's soul strength is very weak now. It must not be disturbed. Not even the slightest bit of interference. In the end, Ningyu added, once his soul force is disturbed, it will be harder than ascending to the heavens to cure him. Hearing this, Yan Hui immediately withdrew his soul force back into his body. His face revealed waves of lingering fear. Fortunately, Ningyu came with him. Otherwise, the consequences would be unimaginable. Ningyu, do you have a way to cure my master? After coming back to his senses, Yen Hui recalled what Ningyu had just said and hurriedly said, "As long as you can cure my master." Yen Hui's voice became softer and softer as he spoke. Even if Ningyu could cure his master, he would not be able to repay him. Medicinal herbs, magical treasures, medicinal pills, and crystals. Ningyu should not be lacking in these things. In the end, he really had no way to repay Ningyu. "What are you talking about? If you trust me, then leave the room with your junior brother," Ningyu said solemnly. "I will do everything possible to save your master." "I trust you, of course I trust you." For now, Yen Hui could only place his hopes on Ningyu. "You have to believe it even if you don't believe it." After responding, Yen Hui walked out of the room with the fat boy. "Wait a moment." Before Yen Hui left the room, Ningyu said, "Lu Wei, you go out with Yen Hui." Lu Wei knew that she wouldn't be able to help Ningyu in the process of saving people, so when she heard Ningyu's words, she didn't hesitate and immediately left the room with Yen Hui. Woof woof. However, Furball roared at Ningyu twice before lying down in Lu Wei's arms, no longer saying a word. "Lu Wei, leave Furball behind." Seeing Furball's reaction, Ningyu slightly frowned and then said, "In addition, without my permission, no one can enter this room." "All right." Since Ningyu had requested it, Lu Wei could only unwillingly place Furball on the ground. Creak. After that, Lu Wei and Yen Hui left the room together. Furball glanced at Ningyu before finding a comfortable place to lie down. "Go and squat in front of the door. Without my permission, no one is allowed to enter the room." Ningyu arrived at Furball's side and raised his leg to kick him. "Shio!" Furball's reaction was beyond Ningyu's imagination. When Ningyu raised his leg, Furball exerted strength in all four limbs and directly jumped in front of the door. It first glanced at Ningyu with disdain, then Furball lay on the ground with its eyes closed. Seeing Furball's lazy appearance, Ningyu was a little angry. However, Ningyu thought about it and felt that there was no need to be angry with Furball. He directly went to the bedside and began to examine Yen Hui's master's injuries. Because he could not use his soul force to examine, Ningyu could only use his perception and carefully enter Yen Hui's master's body. Hiss! As soon as his perception entered Yen Hui's master's body, Ningyu could not help but suck in a breath of cold air. This was because the condition of Yen Hui's master's body was abnormally terrible, terrible to the extreme. His 5 viscera and 6 bowels were all wrapped up in a ball of black liquid. Moreover, this black liquid was constantly seeping into Yen Hui's master's 5 viscera and 6 bowels. Although the speed was relatively slow, after years of accumulation, a large portion had already entered his 5 viscera and 6 bowels. F***ck. When Ningyu's perception shifted to Yen Hui's master's legs, Ningyu directly cursed and his face instantly darkened. Yen Hui's master's knees were almost comminuted. The most serious thing was that under Yen Hui's master's knees, there was a large amount of black liquid accumulated. The black liquid here was much stronger than the one in the 5 viscera and 6 bowels, and its corrosiveness was unusually strong. The condition of Yen Hui's master's body caused Ningyu's expression to become very solemn. Taking a deep breath, Ningyu shifted his perception to Yen Hui's master's sea of consciousness. Peak rank 7 soul force. As soon as Ningyu's perception entered Yen Hui's master's sea of consciousness, his mouth opened wide, revealing a look of disbelief. Although the matter of the black liquid shocked Ningyu, compared to the current shock, it was completely insignificant. The strength of his soul force is only at the early stage of rank 7. Why is there a residual strength of a peak rank 7 soul force in his sea of consciousness? Ningyu's brows furrowed slightly, sinking into deep thought. Logically speaking, Yen Hui's master's soul force was only at the early stage of rank 7, still a long way from peak rank 7. Why was there a peak rank 7 soul force in his sea of consciousness? It seemed like The peak rank 7 soul force in Yen Hui's Master's Sea of Consciousness was not the same as his early stage rank 7 soul force. There was a huge difference between the two. Peak rank 7 soul force should not be Yen Hui's Master's, but left behind by someone else. In an instant, Ning Yu made a judgment. The peak rank 7 soul force in Yen Hui's Master's Sea of Consciousness was very likely the culprit. If he wanted Yen Hui's Master to wake up, he could only expel the peak rank 7 soul force in his Sea of Consciousness, or else the situation would become very bad. Sun Jiangwen, Alchemist Hall Master. After thinking about it, Ning Yu said in a low voice, "I need your help." Ning Yu's soul force was only at peak rank 5. It was very difficult to expel the peak rank 7 soul force in Yen Hui's Master's Sea of Consciousness. "What is it?" Sun Jiangwen and the Alchemist Hall Master flew out from the storage ring and answered. "See if you can expel the peak rank 7 soul force in his Sea of Consciousness without touching the early stage rank 7 soul force in his Sea of Consciousness." Ning Yu pointed at the old man on the bed and said. Hearing Ning Yu's words, Sun Jiangwen and the Alchemist Hall Master immediately released their senses, carefully probing Yen Hui's Master's Sea of Consciousness. After a while, they both withdrew their senses at the same time. After looking at each other, the Alchemist Hall Master said, "The owner of the peak rank 7 soul force is very smart. If you want to expel the soul force he left behind, you must touch the old man's early stage rank 7 soul force." "I know all this, I just want to ask you if you have any ideas," Ning Yu said in a low voice. "There is a way, but the risk is a little high." The Alchemist Hall Master gritted his teeth and said, "I only have 10% confidence." "Tell me about it." Ning Yu frowned slightly and said, "My soul force is at the early stage rank 8 soul force, slightly stronger than the old man's soul force in his Sea of Consciousness. I can slowly extract the peak rank 7 soul force from the old man's Sea of Consciousness." The Alchemist Hall Master explained, "In the process, I can't guarantee that I won't touch the old man's early stage rank 7 soul force." Chapter 554. Make Trouble, a martial artist whose soul power control is even stronger than yours? Ning Yu was slightly startled, and then said, "Which stage of soul suppression can you achieve? The first stage or the second stage? So you also know the division of soul suppression?" Hearing this, the Alchemist Hall leader looked at Ning Yu in astonishment and replied, "I can barely use the second stage of soul suppression, and I'm not very familiar with it yet." "The second stage of soul suppression," Ning Yu murmured. Now, Ning Yu could basically use the second stage of soul suppression, and could even try to use the third stage. In other words, Ning Yu's control over his soul force was even better than the Hall Master. "Tell me what you plan to do." Ning Yu did not tell the Alchemist Hall Master that he was a suitable candidate. Instead, he remained calm and collected. "As long as you can find a martial artist with a stronger soul power control than me, I can release my soul power control and let that martial artist control it." The Alchemist Hall Master explained, "If that's the case, there's at least a 50% chance of expelling the peak 7th grade soul force in the old man's knowledge sea. I can also contribute my soul force. That way, the success rate will increase by another 10%, Sun Jiangwen added. Although the strength of Sun Jiangwen's soul force was not as strong as that of the Alchemist Hall Master, it had reached the peak of grade 7, which was a considerable help. "That's not a bad choice." Ning Yu frowned as he considered the pros and cons. Although the strength of his soul force was only at the peak of the 5th grade, as a peak of the 9th grade alchemist in his previous life, his control over his soul force surpassed the majority of alchemists. Controlling both the Alchemist Hall Master and Sun Jiangwen's soul power at the same time might be somewhat difficult. However, for Ning Yu, it was not too much of a problem. "How about this? I will control your soul force and expel the peak 7th grade soul force from the old man's Sea of Consciousness." After a while, Ning Yu said, "Release your soul power, I'll control it. You? Hearing Ningyu's words, the alchemist hall master and Sun Jiangwen revealed shocked expressions. Ningyu's soul power was only at the peak of rank 5. Compared to them, it was not just a little bit weaker. How could they believe what Ningyu said? Moreover, this matter was of great importance. If Ningyu's stubbornness caused the old man's death, they might even be blamed for it. Therefore, they did not want to hand over the control of their soul force. At the very least, they did not want to hand over the control of their soul force before confirming that Ningyu's soul force control exceeded theirs. If you don't believe me, you can use soul suppression on me. Seeing the expressions of the alchemist hall master and the others, Ningyu said, "Use your strongest soul suppression." The alchemist hall master and Sun Jiangwen exchanged glances once again. However, this time, it was Sun Jiangwen and not the alchemist hall master who exerted soul suppression. Their thinking was very simple. Sun Jiangwen's soul suppression might be slightly weaker, so it wouldn't hurt Ningyu. Swoosh. In the next moment, Sun Jiangwen exerted his peak rank 7 soul power and tried to suppress Ningyu. Don't waste time. Use your strongest soul suppression. Ningyu stood still, not affected by Sun Jiangwen's soul power at all. Instead, he said impatiently, "All right." Seeing that Ningyu was safe and sound, Sun Jiangwen was a little surprised. After the surprise, he immediately increased the soul suppression and directly used the second stage of soul suppression. Come out. Facing Sun Jiangwen's second stage of soul suppression, Ningyu exerted his peak rank 5 soul power and formed a soul power shield in front of him. After all, Sun Jiangwen's soul power was at the peak rank 7 soul power. When he used the second stage of soul suppression, it was not easy for Ningyu to resist. What? Seeing that Ningyu easily resisted his soul suppression, Sun Jiangwen's eyes widened and his face was full of surprise. What kind of monster was Ningyu? How could he even resist his soul suppression? It seemed that Ningyu still had some strength left. Don't waste time. Quickly exert your soul power and let me control it. Ningyu waved his hand and gestured to the alchemist and the others to hurry up. For Yen Hui's master, time was life. If this dragged on, he might very well die. All right. This time, the alchemist and Sun Jiangwen did not refuse. They immediately exerted their soul power and handed the control over to Ningyu. Thank you. Ningyu expressed his gratitude and directly controlled the alchemist's early rank 8 soul power to carefully enter Yen Hui's master's knowledge ocean. The peak rank 7 soul power and the early rank 7 soul power in Yen Hui's master's knowledge ocean had basically touched each other. A little carelessness and all would be for naught. Therefore, in the process of expelling the peak rank 7 soul power, Ningyu was highly focused and did not dare to slack off or be careless. In fact, Ningyu did not even dare to use his hands to wipe the beads of sweat on his forehead. He was afraid that something might go wrong. While Ningyu was treating Yen Hui's master, Furball lazily stretched its limbs. Shortly after, as if it had discovered a new continent, all its fur stood up. Xiao! In the next moment, Furball's figure flashed and directly jumped onto Ningyu's shoulder. Furball. Ningyu was fully focused on expelling the peak rank 7 soul power in Yen Hui's master's knowledge ocean. When Furball suddenly jumped onto his shoulder, he was naturally shocked. In fact, he almost failed at the last moment. With Furball doing this, Ningyu immediately withdrew the alchemist's master's soul power from Yen Hui's knowledge ocean and said to Furball, "What the hell are you doing?" Woof woof. Being scolded so harshly by Ningyu, Furball softly barked a few times and extended a small paw to point at the old man on the bed. Then, Furball pointed at himself and barked a few more times. You mean you can expel the peak rank 7 soul power from his knowledge ocean? Ningyu was slightly dumbfounded and hesitantly asked. Woof woof. Furball revealed an excited expression. How confident are you? Ningyu pondered for a moment and asked. No matter what, Ningyu could not joke around with Yan Hui's master's life. Although it would be a little difficult for him to treat, there was still a 50% chance of success. Woof! Furball revealed a furry little paw and extended a furry little paw. Perhaps seeing that Ningyu was not too satisfied, Furball extended another little paw. Are you kidding me? Ningyu opened his mouth, a little confused. Only Furball dared to say that he was 100% confident. If it were anyone else, they would not dare to be so confident. Woof woof. Looking at Ningyu's expression, Furball's legs suddenly exerted force and it jumped off from Ningyu's shoulder. Furball's sudden action caused Ningyu's expression to change. Yan Hui's master was heavily injured. If Furball messed around, the consequences would be unthinkable. Therefore, Ningyu's first thought was to stop Furball. He could not allow it to treat him recklessly. What? Chapter 555. Chapter 555. Chapter 555. One's work is complete. Whoosh. Furball was very fast, jumping onto Yan Hui's master's shoulder in the blink of an eye. Afterward, Furball extended its two little claws, one on Master Yan Hui's forehead and the other on his chest. Ningyu could clearly sense two weak streams of air flowing out from Furball's claws, entering Yan Hui's master's body. One stream of qi entered Yan Hui's master's sea of consciousness, and the other stream of qi entered his 5 viscera and 6 bowels. Ningyu had never expected such a change. You really do have some skill. At first, Ningyu had been rather worried that Furball would act recklessly, but now it seemed that he had been a little too nervous. This was because after a stream of air entered Yan Hui's master's sea of consciousness, it erupted with an extremely powerful devouring force. In other words, this stream of air was almost plundering the peak 7th grade soul force. Based on this speed, it would only take 10 minutes for the peak 7th grade soul force in Master Yan Hui's sea of consciousness to be completely devoured. Moreover, Master Yan Hui's own early stage rank 7 soul force was not affected at all. This was the scariest. It should be noted that not even Ningyu dared to say that he had 100% chance of extracting the peak 7th grade soul force from Yan Hui's master's mind, but Furball was able to do it so easily. The black liquid in my 5 viscera and 6 bowels is also being expelled. Suddenly, Ningyu noticed the situation in front of Yan Hui's master's chest. Traces of black liquid flowed out from his chest. Although the speed was slow, it would definitely be completely drained within 10 minutes. Since Furball's treatment was effective, Ningyu did not say anything else. Instead, he paid close attention to Yan Hui's master's condition, ready to help at any time. The alchemist hall master and Sun Jiangwen were already dumbfounded. They stared blankly at Furball, who looked like a god, not daring to believe their eyes. After living for so long, he had really lived like a dog. Now, he was even worse than a dog. Poochie. While Harry Ball was trying his best to save Yan Hui's master, there was a secret room in the Alchemy Union in the capital of the Great Xia Kingdom. An old man suddenly spat out a mouthful of dark red blood, and his aura weakened slightly. He's not dead yet. The old man wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth, his face filled with viciousness. I shouldn't have held back in the first place. If we don't remove the roots, the weeds will grow again with the spring breeze. After the pill forging competition, you must. The old man's eyes revealed a ruthless glint as he said, Forget it, I'll send someone to investigate now to avoid any unforeseen circumstances. With that, the old man got up and left the room. Ningyu was unaware of what was happening in the Alchemy Union. At this moment, his gaze was fixed on Yan Hui's master. As time passed, the peak rank 7 soul force in Yan Hui's master's sea of consciousness was almost completely taken away. Poochie. Suddenly, Yan Hui's master opened his eyes and spat out a mouthful of black blood. Cough cough. Master Yan Hui coughed twice before turning his head to look at Furball on his shoulder and shouting, Senior, don't panic. Seeing Yan Hui's master's action, Ningyu hurriedly said, "The reason why you could wake up is all because of his help." All because of his help? Hearing Ningyu's words, Yan Hui's master was stunned on the spot and put down his right hand that was just raised. In the beginning, Yan Hui's master was skeptical. However, when he felt the changes in his internal organs, his expression was abnormally interesting. Swoosh! Right at this moment, Furball retracted its pair of small claws at the same time, its face full of exhaustion. Seeing this, Ningyu immediately took out a supreme-grade essence crystal from his storage ring and threw it to Furball. Furball did not stand on ceremony with Ningyu. It carried the supreme-grade essence crystal and flew to the other side, starting to chew on it. I can't believe that the injuries that have troubled me for so long are actually cured. Yan Hui's master slightly checked the condition of his body, took a deep breath, and said to Ningyu, "I can't thank you enough for your great kindness. I, Dan Xingzi, will remember this kindness." Dan Xingzi? Ningyu was slightly stunned. This was the first time he heard the old man's real name. However, Ningyu seemed to have heard the name Dan Xingzi somewhere before. "What? You are Dan Xingzi?" Ningyu didn't know who Dan Xingzi was, but the Alchemy Master Hall Master and Sun Jiangwen were very clear. They were from the Corpse Yin sect, and the Corpse Yin sect was entrenched in the Great Xia Kingdom. They were very clear about the elite alchemy masters of the Great Xia Kingdom. "You know Senior Dan Xingzi?" Ningyu frowned. "I've heard of him." Sun Jiangwen looked at Dan Xingzi and explained, "A long time ago, 2 alchemy geniuses appeared in the Great Xia Kingdom. One is Dan Xingzi and the other is this one, Dan Xingzi." After listening to Sun Jiangwen's story, Ningyu revealed a solemn expression. Turned out that Dan Xingzi and Dan Xingzi were both alchemy geniuses. Back then, they were known as the people with the highest hopes of advancing to the 8th grade alchemy master in the Great Xia Kingdom. However, Dan Xingzi suddenly disappeared overnight. From then on, it was as if he had evaporated from the world. No one knew his whereabouts. Someone once asked Dan Xingzi, but Dan Xingzi kept his mouth shut about this matter. Furthermore, if anyone mentioned Dan Xingzi in front of Dan Xingzi would fly into a rage. As time passed, the name Dan Xingzi became a taboo in the capital and was gradually forgotten by everyone. It's just a name. I didn't think that someone would still remember it." Dan Xingzi seemed to be more open-minded as he smiled and said, "How many years has it been? I finally have the possibility to stand up again." "Senior, your legs?" Ningyu pointed at Dan Xingzi's legs and said, "It's fine. My soul spirit force has already recovered. As for the injuries on my legs, I can slowly treat them." Dan Xingzi waved his hand and said, "Ningyu, I can already try to refine some elixirs now. If you have any needs in the future, you can mention it. I will help you refine elixirs unconditionally. After so many years, I might not have other things, but I still have quite a lot of herbs and essence crystals." Because the Alchemist Hall Master and Sun Jiangwen concealed their soul spirit force, and because Dan Xingzi had just recovered his soul spirit perception, he didn't notice the abnormality of the Alchemist Hall Master and Sun Jiangwen. Until now, Dan Xingzi still thought that the two of them were ordinary people. "Senior, the one who healed your injuries was Furball. It has nothing to do with me." Ningyu felt that he couldn't take Furball's credit for himself. Dan Xingzi looked at Furball, who was eating the supreme grade essence crystals, and said hesitantly, "I've said it before. I might not have other things, but I still have quite a lot of essence crystals." Swoosh! As soon as he finished speaking, Dan Xingzi swung his sleeves, and a storage bag flew out and went towards Ningyu. "Ningyu, pass these essence crystals to Furball. Furball for me. Also, tell him that if he needs essence crystals in the future, he can come and ask me anytime. I still have some left." Chapter 556. Enemy Attack Hiss. After receiving the storage pouch, Ning Yu slightly released his soul perception into the storage pouch. As soon as his soul perception entered the storage pouch, Ning Yu couldn't help but gasp, and his eyes revealed an extremely shocked expression. The reason why Ning Yu was shocked wasn't because there were few origin crystals in the storage pouch. Too many. It was truly too many. The origin crystals in the storage pouch were all transcendent grade. Ning Yu roughly glanced at it and noticed that there were at least 100,000 transcendent grade origin crystals. Dan Xingzi gave away so many origin crystals just like that, and he didn't even bat an eyelid. That senior. Pardon me for asking. Ning Yu said to Dan Xingzi, how much do you have in stock? Dan Xingzi didn't answer Ning Yu at the first possible moment. Instead, he looked at the alchemist hall master and Sun Jiangwen, and then cast an inquiring gaze at Ning Yu. We're on the same side. Ning Yu knew what Dan Xingzi meant, and he indicated that he could speak without worry. Actually, it's not too much. Since Ning Yu said that the alchemist hall master and the others were on the same side, Dan Xingzi didn't ask anymore, and he said, the origin crystals in the storage pouch are only 1/10 of my stock. So much? Hearing Dan Xingzi's words, Ning Yu's mind started to work. The Red Fiend's sword needed at least 200,000 transcendent grade origin crystals to advance to the monarch rank. Dan Xingzi possessed 1,000,000 transcendent grade origin crystals. If he could borrow these origin crystals, then the Red Fiend's sword's advancement to the monarch rank would be a sure thing. Senior, I need a large amount of transcendent grade origin crystals for the time being. I wonder if... Ning Yu hesitated and said, lend me some first? Lend? Dan Xingzi raised his brows, and he revealed a displeased expression. I won't lend them to you. Then, Dan Xingzi changed the topic and said, how many transcendent grade origin crystals do you need? I can give them to you unconditionally. 200,000. When he heard Dan Xingzi's first sentence, Ning Yu felt slightly awkward. But after hearing his second sentence, Ning Yu secretly thought that ginger was indeed spicier with age. He directly stretched out 2 fingers and said, I need 200,000 supreme origin crystals in 3 days. Within 3 days, Dan Xingzi fell into deep thought when he heard this. After a while Dan Xingzi said, it's rather troublesome within 3 days, because my transcendent grade origin crystal isn't in the capital, and it'll take 3 days to travel there and back. Furthermore, only I can open that place. If anyone else tries to forcefully open it, that place will explode on its own. Looks like I'll have to figure it out myself. A look of disappointment appeared on Ning Yu's face. 200,000 transcendent grade essence crystals. It seemed like he had to think of a way himself. Fortunately, Dan Xingzi took out 100,000 transcendent grade essence crystals. Next, he only needed to find another 100,000 transcendent grade essence crystals. As the saying goes, a penny stumps a hero. 100,000 transcendent grade origin crystals was enough to give Ning Yu a headache for a long time. Bang! Just as Ning Yu was feeling a little disappointed, a muffled sound suddenly rang out from outside the room. Oh no! The moment the muffled sound rang out, Ning Yu's expression changed drastically. He had no time to think and immediately rushed out of the room. Let's go! The alchemist hall master and Sun Jiangwen looked at each other, then both rose from the ground and followed closely behind Ning Yu. Let me give you a piece of advice. If you know what's good for you, hurry up and scram. Inside the miracle physician shop, a middle-aged man in his 40s or 50s casually pushed Yan Hui back and said to Lu Wei in a sinister manner, seeing that you're a woman, I won't attack you for the time being. Otherwise, I'll let you know why flowers are so red. You can't go in. Yan Hui climbed up from the ground with difficulty and stood in front of Lu Wei. I can't go in? The middle-aged man's lips curled up and he said with a smile, Haha, looks like you won't shed a tear until you see the coffin. Fine, I'll show you what I'm made of. As soon as he finished speaking, the middle-aged man suddenly dashed out. Swoosh! The middle-aged man's speed was very fast. In the blink of an eye, he arrived beside Yen Hui. Bang! The middle-aged man kicked out, and it landed squarely on Yen Hui's chest. Yen Hui was already severely injured. Now that he was kicked in the chest by the middle-aged man, his body flew out and slammed hard into the wall behind him. A crisp sound rang out. Yen Hui spat out a mouthful of dark red blood. His face became extremely pale, without any color of blood. "You can't go in." The fat boy was rather daring. He was not frightened by the middle-aged man and shouted, "You're a bad person. I can't let you hurt Master." "Master?" Hearing that, the middle-aged man's heart shook and he murmured, "Looks like what Danchenzi said was true. It should be this place." Suppressing the excitement in his heart, the middle-aged man did not take the fat boy seriously. Instead, he said to Lu Wei again, "I don't want to kill, but don't force me. You have two choices now. 1. Leave voluntarily. 2. Be killed by me." Swoosh! In the next moment, the middle-aged man displayed his aura and crazily pressed down on Lu Wei. "Humph! A mere early yin-yang realm martial artist dares to behave atrociously here." However, just as the middle-aged man displayed his aura, a cold snort came from the room. Swoosh! After the cold snort, a figure instantly appeared beside the middle-aged man and threw a punch at his head. Oh no! Even though the middle-aged man was at the early stage of yin-yang realm, he was shocked by the violent primordial qi contained in his fist. He did not dare to be careless. He quickly retracted his aura and gathered all the yuan energy in his body on his wrist. With a backhand punch, his fist collided with the figure's fist. Crack! When the two fists collided, the middle-aged man only felt a huge force wreaking havoc on his fist. Moreover, it seemed like it was spreading to his entire body. The middle-aged man did not dare to be careless. He quickly took a few steps back and used his skill to resist the force of the fist. Ning Yu. Seeing the familiar figure that suddenly appeared, Lu Wei was pleasantly surprised. "It's good that you're fine." Seeing that Lu Wei was fine, Ning Yu relaxed a little. "Harry Ball is in the room. Go find him. I have something to take care of. Be careful." Lu Wei knew what Ning Yu was going to do next, so she did not stay and directly entered the room. "Go and check on Yen Hui's injuries." After Lu Wei left, Ning Yu said to the alchemist and Sun Jiangwen, "Note down every injury on his body. I will need it later." After doing all this, Ning Yu walked towards the middle-aged man. After a while, Ning Yu came to the middle-aged man's side and said lightly, "Tell me, why are you here? You are only a mid-primal core martial artist. How dare you behave atrociously in front of me?" Although the middle-aged man knew that Ning Yu was very strong, he did not think that Ning Yu was a match for him. As far as he was concerned, the reason he was at a slight disadvantage in the battle with Ning Yu earlier was entirely because of his carelessness. Chapter 557. Taste it all over. If you know what's good for you, hurry up and *ck off. Otherwise, I'll kill you as well. When the middle-aged man finished speaking, Ning Yu's expression turned completely gloomy. "There was a path to heaven, but you refused to take it. There's no door to hell, but you barged in. I know even if you don't say it. You must have been sent by Danchenzi." Ning Yu stared at the middle-aged man's eyes, hoping to find some clues from his eyes. Actually, when he heard Sun Jiangwen's introduction of Danchenzi in the room, Ning Yu had vaguely determined that Danchenzi's injury was most likely related to Danchenzi. Now that the middle-aged man had suddenly appeared, Ning Yu had no choice but to suspect Danchenzi. As expected, the middle-aged man's eyes flickered indeterminately when he heard Ning Yu's words, and a look of surprise appeared on his face. However, the look of surprise only lasted for a moment, and the middle-aged man said coldly, "I have no idea what you're talking about at all. I only came here for one purpose, and that is to see the pill refinement master in the room." I really admire you." Ning Yu smiled at first, then he changed the topic and said, I'm just admiring your stupidity. Opportunities are fought for by yourself. You can't blame me for not grasping it. Ha ha ha. The middle-aged man laughed out loud and said coldly, Who do you think you are to speak to me like that? I didn't want to start a massacre, but all signs indicate that the pill refinement master in the room is the person I'm looking for. Since that's the case, all of you must die today. Boom. In the next moment, the middle-aged man took out a medicinal pill and stuffed it into his mouth. Then, a monstrous aura erupted from his body. Compared to the aura from before, it had forcefully increased by a level this time. In other words, the middle-aged man had erupted with the aura of an early-stage yin-yang stage earlier, and now he had erupted with the aura of an intermediate-stage yin-yang stage. Forcefully increasing your cultivation with medicinal pills? Don't you know that the side effects are severe? Ningyu frowned. Now that things have come to this, I won't hide anything from you. The middle-aged man said gloomily, I presume you already know that the martial artist in the room is Dan Xingzi, and I was entrusted by Dan Xingzi this time to take Dan Xingzi's head. Irrelevant answer. Ningyu shook his head, then rose from the ground and arrived beside the middle-aged man in the blink of an eye. The primal qi in his sea of consciousness surged out and gathered on his wrist. Ningyu punched out, bringing with it a violent yuan qi gale, towards the middle-aged man's chest. If I was still at the early yin-yang realm, I might not be able to defeat you. But now that I'm at the mid-yin-yang realm, it's more than enough to kill you. As he watched Ningyu approach him, a cold expression appeared on the middle-aged man's face. Then, the middle-aged man clenched his right hand into a fist, which also contained a violent fluctuation of yuan qi. Without any deviation, it collided with Ningyu's fist. Bang! The two fists collided, but this time they did not separate. Instead, the two fists were stuck together. This day next year will be the anniversary of your death. The middle-aged man gritted his teeth, and the primal qi in his sea of consciousness poured out and entered Ningyu's fist through his fist. You want to compare the density of primal qi with me? The corners of Ningyu's mouth curled up slightly. Immediately, a wave of primal qi that was no weaker than the middle-aged man's swept out of his sea of consciousness and gathered on his fist. What? Seeing the even more violent fluctuation of primal qi on Ningyu's fist, the middle-aged man revealed a horrified expression. This was because, as the primal qi on Ningyu's fist appeared, he realized that he was already at a slight disadvantage. This was the most unacceptable thing to him. One had to know that he was at the early yin-yang realm, and he had used elixirs to raise his cultivation to the mid-yin-yang realm in a short period of time. Ningyu was only at the mid-primal core realm, so why was his primal qi even denser than his? This day next year will be the anniversary of my death. Many people have said this to me. As Ningyu increased the flow of primal qi, he said to the middle-aged man, but unfortunately, all the warriors who have said this to me, without exception, have all gone to the same place. What place? The middle-aged man was stunned as he asked. The underworld. Ningyu said calmly. It's not that easy to kill me. The middle-aged man could not just sit and wait for death. Not only did he gather all the primal qi in his body on his fist, he even burned his blood essence in an attempt to kill Ningyu. All right. At this moment, Sun Jiangwen said in a low voice, Yan Hui's injuries are very serious. More than 10 bones in his body are broken, and his soul has suffered a very serious injury. Hearing this, Ningyu's expression became very ugly. He had originally thought that Yan Hui had only suffered some superficial injuries. Who would have thought that even his soul power had been injured? Soul power was different from other things. Once it was injured, it would cost a lot to heal it. What injuries did Yan Hui suffer? Return them all at once. The primal qi in Ningyu's sea of consciousness poured out and surged into his fist. Bang! Originally, the middle-aged man could still be evenly matched with Ningyu, but as the primal qi in Ningyu's fist increased, he gradually fell into a disadvantage. In the next moment, Ning Yu's fist suddenly exerted force, and directly pushed the middle-aged man back a few feet. A metallic taste came from his throat, causing the middle-aged man to spit out a mouthful of blood. His breathing became somewhat weak. Don't just stand there. What injuries did Yan Hui suffer? Give him all of them. Ning Yu waved his hand, indicating that the Alchemist Hall Master could make his move. Hearing this, the Alchemist Hall Master's figure immediately flashed and appeared in front of the middle-aged man. Humph! A mere Yuan Dan. The middle-aged man thought that the Alchemist Hall Master was just an ordinary martial artist and snorted coldly. However, before he could finish his sentence, his eyes widened as he stared at the martial artist in front of him with a face full of shock. Peak advanced yin-yang stage. Only now did the middle-aged man wake up as if from a dream. It turned out that this martial artist was the most amazing existence. His cultivation and strength far surpassed that of Ning Yu. However, the middle-aged man's reaction was clearly a little too late. After receiving Ning Yu's order, the Alchemist Hall Master immediately displayed his initial grade 8 soul power and unscrupulously pressed against the middle-aged man's sea of consciousness. The middle-aged man's soul power was only at the initial grade 6 soul power. How could he withstand the pressure of the Alchemist Hall Master's soul power? The result was obvious. The middle-aged man let out a miserable shriek like a pig being slaughtered. Then, like a deflated balloon, he sat paralyzed on the ground. Did the middle-aged man think that he would be safe just by sitting paralyzed on the ground? The answer was obviously no. This was because the Alchemist Hall Master's order was very clear. Whatever injuries Yan Hui suffered, he had to let the middle-aged man suffer. Just now, he had only crippled the middle-aged man's soul power. Next, he had to break a dozen of his bones. Crack, crack, crack. The Alchemist Hall Master did things swiftly and decisively, without the slightest bit of hesitation. Chapter 558. Settle. Every time the hall leader punched, a bone in the middle-aged man's body would be broken. After a while, the hall leader stopped. More than 10 bones in the middle-aged man's body had already been broken. You have one last chance to live. Ning Yu approached the middle-aged man and said slowly, "State Danshinzi's cultivation level and the strength of his soul." Ha ha! Hiss! The middle-aged man laughed wildly, but he did not expect it to agitate the wounds on his body, causing him to grimace in pain. Even so, the middle-aged man still laughed evilly. "It seems that you are still very afraid of Danshinzi." As he spoke, the middle-aged man's gaze swept across the crowd. The middle-aged man then said coldly, "To tell you the truth, not only is Danshinzi's soul strong, but his strength is also heaven-defying. Danshinzi only needs to use half of his strength to get rid of you small fries. Let me give you a piece of advice. If you know what's good for you, hurry up and let me go. Danshinzi already knows that I'm here. If I'm killed here, Danshinzi will definitely not let you go." Sigh. Hearing this, Ning Yu sighed softly and said, "I was thinking of sparing your life, but since you're asking for it, I can only apologize." Whoosh! As soon as he finished speaking, Ning Yu's eyes turned cold. A blue flame appeared on his fist, and he instantly charged forward. "I'll let you have a taste of the azure spiritual fire." Ning Yu growled as he threw a punch at the middle-aged man. Looking at the expanding flames in his eyes, the middle-aged man's eyes revealed a hint of despair. He was currently heavily injured. Not only was his soul damaged, but more than 10 bones in his body had been broken. He could only watch helplessly as Ning Yu attacked him. "My friend Ning Yu, have mercy." However, just as Ning Yu's fist was 10 centimeters away from the middle-aged man, a voice suddenly rang in his ears. Whoosh! Ning Yu raised his eyebrows when he heard this familiar voice, and he immediately stopped. "This is a grudge between me and Danshinzi. I want to settle it myself." Danshinzi's voice rang out in a timely manner, "Leave this person to me. I promise I'll handle it properly." Since Senior has spoken, I wouldn't dare to disobey. Ningyu glared at the middle-aged man, then took a few steps back and ignored him. Ningyu's sudden action caused the middle-aged man to be somewhat dumbfounded. Originally, he thought that he would definitely die today. Who would have thought that Ningyu would not kill him? Although he didn't know why Ningyu stopped, it was still good to be alive. Sun Jiangwen, how confident are you in curing Yan Hui's soul force? Since Dan Xingzi wanted to take over the middle-aged man, Ningyu no longer asked about it. Instead, he started to care about Yan Hui. Yan Hui's soul force was injured by the middle-aged man, and it seemed to be more serious. It's not a big problem to cure it, Sun Jiangwen said hesitantly. It's just that it will take a long time. How long? Ningyu asked with a frown. Around 7 days, Sun Jiangwen answered. 7 days, huh? Ningyu sank into contemplation. Tomorrow was the day the alchemy competition would be held. He naturally did not have time to stay here and treat Yan Hui. How about this? Alchemy Hall Master will stay behind to treat Yan Hui and also look after Dan Xingzi at the same time to ensure his safety. Thinking about it, Ningyu said, "Contact me anytime if there's any problem." Swoosh. After giving the instructions, Ningyu dashed into the room with a swoosh. Ningyu, today's matter is all thanks to you. Seeing Ningyu enter, Dan Xingzi cupped his fists and said, I owe you another favor. When I recover, I'll be at your disposal at any time. Today's events made Dan Xingzi completely see through it. People who verbally treated you well might not necessarily treat you well. Only when something happened would one know who treated you well sincerely. Back then, his relationship with Dan Xingzi was very good. In the end, wasn't he still framed the same way? Not only did Ningyu save him, he even saved Yan Hui and the fat boy. It could be said that if not for Ningyu rushing over today, they would be dead for sure. Senior, my relationship with Yan Hui is very good. Moreover, this matter is just lifting a finger for me. Ningyu waved his hand, indicating that Dan Xingzi need not take it to heart. This place is already exposed. Why don't, for the middle-aged man to be able to find this place, in Ningyu's view, the rest of the people would definitely be able to find it too. If Dan Xingzi continued to stay here, it would inevitably attract Dan Xingzi's attention. This place is just a foothold of mine in the capital. Dan Xingzi smiled and said, Don't look at how I'm already in dire straits. In the capital, I still have some friends. There are other footholds? Hearing Dan Xingzi's words, Ningyu's heart stirred, then he said, I have 2 friends who lack a foothold. I wonder if, no problem. Forget about 2, even if it's 8 or 10, I can arrange it properly too. Dan Xingzi patted his chest and guaranteed. Wandering in the capital all year round and not being discovered by Dan Xingzi, it was enough to show that Dan Xingzi still had some power. Letting Dan Xingzi help look after some of Lu Wei's parents, Ningyu was more at ease. Moreover, Ningyu already decided to leave the Alchemy Master Hall Master behind. The Alchemy Master Hall Master was a peak late-stage Yin-Yang realm martial artist with formidable strength. Even if something happened, at least there would be someone to take care of and could persist until he rushed over. Whoosh! In the next instant, Ningyu flicked his sleeves and threw the storage ring into the air. 2 beams of light shot out from the storage ring. Immediately, 2 figures landed steadily in the room. These 2 figures were none other than precisely Lu Wei's parents. However, at this moment, Lu Wei's mother was being held in her father's arms, and her breathing was very weak. A magic treasure that can store people. The instant Lu Wei's parents appeared, Dan Xingzi's expression changed slightly, and his face was filled with surprise. After a brief moment of shock, Dan Xingzi shifted his gaze to Lu Wei's parents. If I'm not wrong, they should be the current Pavilion Master and Pavilion Master's wife. Dan Xingzi sighed softly and said, I've also heard about what happened in Snow Domain Pavilion. If I recover to my peak state, perhaps I can help refine the revival pill. Your Senior Dan Xingzi? Compared to Dan Xingzi's surprise, Lu Durong was even more shocked. After all, Lu Durong was the pavilion master of Snow Domain Pavilion. He was rather familiar with Dan Xingzi's deeds. I didn't expect so many people to remember me. Dan Xingzi smiled bitterly and said, Pavilion Master Lu, don't worry. Although I can't help refine the revival pill now, I can temporarily seal Madame Lu's internal injuries and buy her a month's time. If that's the case, thank you, Senior Dan Xingzi. Lu Durong revealed a joyful expression. Dan Xingzi was a famous alchemy master in the Great Xia Kingdom. Whether it was his personal strength or his connections, he was top-notch in the Great Xia Kingdom. With his help, there would be more opportunities. Senior, we can't stay here for long. In my opinion, it's better to leave as soon as possible. Chapter 559. Fake Saint, don't worry, I have already contacted my friends in the Great Xia Kingdom. I believe they will rush over in no time. Dan Xingzi smiled and raised his brows. They are already here. Hearing Dan Xingzi's words, Ning Yu's heart skipped a beat, and he quickly extended his perception. SSS. Sensing the powerful aura exuding from the martial artists outside the miracle physician shop, Ning Yu couldn't help but gasp. There were a total of 3 martial artists at the entrance of the miracle physician shop. Among them, there were 2 middle-stage Yin-Yang realm martial artists and 1 late-stage Yin-Yang realm martial artist. Creak. The 3 martial artists didn't linger at the entrance of the miracle physician shop. They immediately opened the door and walked in. Swish. Seeing that the 3 martial artists suddenly barged in, the Alchemist Hall Master's expression changed slightly. He immediately released all his aura and transmitted a message to Ning Yu at the same time. Enemy attack. We're on the same side. Let them in. Ning Yu's voice sounded in the Alchemist Hall Master's ears. The Alchemist Hall Master was stunned at first, and then he slightly moved his body. The 3 martial artists weren't surprised by the Alchemist Hall Master's obstruction. It was as though they were used to this. They directly walked past the Alchemist Hall Master and entered the room. Dan Xingzi, I told you to stay at my place long ago. The late-stage Yin-Yang realm martial artist started grumbling the moment he entered the room. As he walked towards Dan Xingzi, he grumbled, You just wouldn't listen. Now a what? You've recovered from your injuries? However, before the late-stage Yin-Yang realm martial artist came to Dan Xingzi's side, his eyes widened in extreme shock. As one of Dan Xingzi's best friends, he knew that Dan Xingzi's injuries were severe, so severe that it was basically impossible for him to recover. However, Dan Xingzi's current condition clearly looked like he was about to recover. As long as the black liquid accumulated in his legs was expelled, he could even walk upright. If someone said this to a late-stage Yin-Yang realm martial artist in the past, he would definitely think that that person was crazy. Don't say anything unnecessary. We'll move immediately. Dan Xingzi waved his hand, indicating that the late-stage Yin-Yang realm martial artist shouldn't ask too much for now. Leave it to us. The late-stage Yin-Yang realm martial artist patted his chest and guaranteed, We were already prepared when we came. We definitely won't attract the attention of that old thief, Dan Xingzi. Lu Wei, I'm going to the Alchemy Union later, why don't you? Since Dan Xingzi's friend had come, Ning Yu felt that there was no need for him to stay. He had to prepare to head to the Alchemy Union. Or rather, he should look for President Zhou Tong first. As for Lu Wei, according to Ning Yu, he wanted her to stay, but he still had to ask for her opinion. Let San go with you. Before Lu Wei could speak, her father, Lu Durong, said, It's easier for young people to communicate with each other. Father, Lu Wei said hurriedly. Listen to me. Lu Durong said solemnly, his tone unquestionable. All right. Lu Wei still wanted to say something, but seeing Lu Durong's expression, she could only choose to keep her mouth shut. Lu Wei wasn't a fool, and she naturally knew that Lu Durong was doing this for her own good. There were so many experts around Ningyu, and following by Ningyu's side might be the safest. Senior, if there's nothing else, I'll make a move first. You guys should also move as soon as possible. Ningyu gave Lu Wei a look and walked out of the room. However, Ningyu paused at the door and turned back. Oh right, I'll leave my friend here. Get him to contact me if there's anything. After saying that, Ningyu left the room without turning back. As for Lu Wei, she glanced at her parents before following closely behind Ningyu. Dan Xingzi, who was that just now? After Ningyu left the room, the advanced stage Yin-Yang realm martial artist frowned and said, Why do I feel a little familiar? Of course you're familiar. He's the core disciple of Danwu College's Sacred Institute, Ningyu, Dan Xingzi explained. What? He's Ningyu. The advanced stage Yin-Yang realm martial artist was shocked to hear that. He had heard quite a bit about Ningyu during this period of time. Of course, it was all said by his grade 3 elixir master disciple. In fact, his disciple even took Ningyu as his idol and wanted to witness Ningyu's glory in this competition. He didn't expect that the young martial artist just now was Ningyu. After a short moment of shock, the advanced stage Yin-Yang realm martial artist said, Dan Xingzi, let's not waste any more time. Let's leave as soon as possible. At the same time, Ningyu had already left the Miracle Physician shop with Lu Wei. At the Miracle Physician shop, Ningyu had specially instructed the Alchemist Hall Master to ensure the safety of Lu Wei's parents. If there were any problems, he had to contact him immediately. Sun Jiangwen was only at the pinnacle of the primal core stage and wouldn't be of much help even if he stayed behind. Therefore, Ningyu didn't ask him to stay, but let him enter the storage ring and stay by his side. Swoosh, swoosh. After leaving the Miracle Physician shop, Ningyu found a place with no one around and let Feng Zi and Li Tongtian out of the storage ring. That was suffocating. The moment they left the storage ring, Feng Zi and Li Tongtian heaved a long sigh of relief. After staying in the storage ring for such a long time, the two of them could be considered to have witnessed Ningyu's prowess. Li Tongtian, in particular, looked at Ningyu gratefully and said, I can't thank you enough. From now on, your problems are my problems. As long as you say the word, I'll go through fire and water. Smack! Ningyu kicked Li Tongtian's butt and pretended to be angry. Forget it. Don't play with me. Let me ask you, who exactly are you? Li Tongtian wasn't angry after being kicked by Ningyu. He dusted himself off and said, My master is an elder of Danwu College. I should be the Grand Elder. And my identity is the fake Holy Son of Danwu College. Fake Holy Son? Ningyu frowned slightly. Clearly, he had never heard of a fake Holy Son. However, he had heard of a Holy Son. It was an existence that surpassed the core disciples. In the entire history of Danwu College, there had only been one Holy Son. What the hell was a fake Holy Son? A fake Holy Son is a candidate for the Holy Son. Only by defeating the shadow left behind by the previous Holy Son can one advance to become a real Holy Son and enjoy the highest level of treatment in Danwu College. Li Tongtian explained, There are a total of 8 fake Holy Sons in Danwu College, and I'm just one of them. Forget it, let's hurry to the Alchemy Union. Ningyu thought about it and felt that there was no need to waste time here. The most important thing now was to find Zhou Tong as soon as possible. That was the most important thing. While Ningyu and the rest were rushing to the Alchemy Union, there were a few martial artists arguing fiercely in the main hall of the Alchemy Union. If Ningyu was here, he would definitely realize that he was very familiar with one of the martial artists. Chapter 560. Zhou Tong's Wrath. Why can't I replace him? At the registration area of the Alchemy Union, Zhou Tong's face was flushed red as he said angrily, The student who signed up previously couldn't come because of something. Can't someone else participate in the alchemy competition? There is no why. A man in his 30s or 40s said impatiently. I can tell you this very clearly. Don't even think about changing people to participate in the alchemy competition. Scram back to where you came from. As he spoke, the man unleashed his soul power and pressed down on Zhou Tong. The 3-star badge on the man's shoulder indicated that he was a 3rd-level alchemist, just like Zhou Tong. However, the man's soul power was stronger than Zhou Tong's. He was a peak 3rd-level alchemist, only 1 step away from becoming a 4th-level alchemist. On the other hand, Zhou Tong was only a late-stage 3rd-level alchemist. Facing the man's 3rd-level soul power, Zhou Tong was no match for him. He coughed out a mouthful of blood and his face paled. Who is that? How dare he talk back to Master Chen? Yeah, Master Chen is a peak 3rd-level alchemist. He is the president of the Alchemy Union of Tianqian City. I heard that he wants to replace him. Replace him? If he really wants to replace him, Master Chen has no reason to stop him. You guys don't know about this. Hearing the discussion of the martial artists, a 3rd-level alchemist said in a low voice, I heard that Master Chen is close to the Zhang family. The Zhang family must be behind this. The Zhang family? The surrounding martial artists all revealed a look of sudden realization. Zhang Wenyong died in Tianqian City, and Zhou Tong was the president of the Alchemy Union of Tianqian City. Therefore, it was reasonable for the Zhang family to make things difficult for Zhou Tong. Chen Ming, we have a martial artist in Liwang City who can't participate in the alchemy competition. Help us replace him. At that moment, a martial artist walked into the Alchemy Union. On this warrior's shoulder, there was a 5-star badge. It was obvious that this martial artist was a 5th-level alchemist. So, it's Master Hu won. You could have just sent a message for this small matter. There's no need for you to come personally. Seeing the 5-star badge on Hu Wen's shoulder, Chen Ming immediately retracted his soul power and said with a smile, Leave the registration to me, and you can change the person at any time. Xiao. Hu Wen nodded in satisfaction. With a flick of his sleeve, a piece of paper flew toward Chen Ming. This is the name list for our replacement. If there's nothing else, I'll be leaving first. I still have to go back and supervise those fellows to train properly. After saying this, Hu Wen left the Alchemy Union. Let me see you out. Chen Ming took the paper and followed behind Hu Wen. Chen Ming only returned to the Alchemy Union when Hu Wen disappeared at the end of the street. Chen Ming, didn't you tell me that there was no way to substitute people for the alchemy competition? Why can that person be replaced? Zhou Tong was exceptionally furious as he said in a low voice. Don't be unreasonable here. Hu Wen is a 5th-level alchemist, and you're only a 3rd-level alchemist. Chen Ming said disdainfully, Moreover, the registration time for the Alchemy Union is this afternoon. If you come here and cause trouble, even if I lock you up, no one will say anything. Don't tell me that the registration time is in the afternoon. Zhou Tong spat and said, The registration time is in the afternoon. All the alchemy unions have already completed the registration a week ago. If I say no, then no. Chen Ming snorted coldly. Immediately, his peak 3rd-level soul power poured out and pressed toward Zhou Tong again. Poochie! Poochie! Zhou Tong's breath was already weak. Now that he was being suppressed by Chen Ming's soul power, he spat out 2 mouthfuls of blood and his breath became even weaker. Chen Ming, you're using your power to get even with me. Wiping the blood from the corner of his mouth, Zhou Tong scolded, I want to see the higher-ups of the Alchemy Union. I want to complain about you. Using your power to get even with me? Complain about me? The corner of Chen Ming's lips curled up and he laughed sinisterly. To tell you the truth, I'm using my power to get even with you today. What can you do about it? Back in Tianqian City, you stole my position as the president. You didn't expect it, right? Now that I've settled down in the capital's Alchemy Union, I'm doing much better than you. It's just a third-rate city's alchemy union. If you want to complain, go ahead. Let's see if anyone cares about you. Whoosh! Chen Ming's words caused a huge uproar in the alchemy union. Originally, they thought that Chen Ming was entrusted by the Zhang family. Now, it seemed that there were other secret. No wonder Chen Ming made things difficult for Zhou Tong. So there's a grudge between them. Didn't you hear what Chen Ming said? Zhou Tong stole his position as the president. This is a huge grudge. He definitely can't tolerate it. That's right. Stealing the president's position is no different from cutting off Chen Ming's future. If it was me, I would have kicked Zhou Tong out of the alchemy union long ago. How could I still allow him to behave so atrociously? The surrounding martial artists' discussion caused Zhou Tong's face to turn cold. A bunch of nonsense, completely a bunch of nonsense. The position of president in Profound Sky City's alchemy union was a fair competition. Whoever refined a third-grade medicinal pill first would be able to become the president. At that time, Chen Ming cheated and was exposed by the previous president. In the end, he was expelled from Profound Sky City. Who would have thought that now that Chen Ming was doing well, he would put the blame on him? Chen Ming, do you dare to take off your shirt? Zhou Tong said in a clear voice. Back when you were fighting for the position of president of the alchemy union, you were exposed by the old president because you cheated. If I remember correctly, there should be a black mark on your chest. That mark is the aftereffect of your cheating. Snake heart flower. Zhou Tong continued. In order to refine medicinal pills faster, you added a small amount of snake heart flower into the cauldron. Unexpectedly, the old president discovered it. Hence, the poisonous fire attacked your heart and you were devoured by the snake heart flower. If it wasn't for the old president and I working together to expel the venom from the snake heart flower, you would have died long ago. How could you still live until now? Swoosh! Zhou Tong's words caused the surrounding martial artists to be dumbfounded. Things happened too fast, so fast that they could not react in time. The snake heart flower's venom is very high, but adding a small amount during the process of refining medicinal pills can speed up the process of forming pills. Although it can speed up the process of forming pills, the medicinal pills refined contain extremely strong venom and can't be consumed at all. The snake heart flower is a taboo herb in the alchemy world. Chen Ming couldn't have really used it before, right? It's hard to say. Look at Chen Ming's expression, it's very ugly. Hearing that, the surrounding martial artists shifted their gazes towards Chen Ming. At this time, Chen Ming's fists were tightly clenched and his chest was heaving up and down. Accurately speaking, Chen Ming was on the verge of exploding with rage. Zhou Tong, so many years have passed. To think that you don't even frown when lying. Chapter 561. Small Snake Mark Swish. As his voice fell, Chen Ming's eyes revealed a hint of coldness, and in the blink of an eye, he appeared in front of Zhou Tong. A fist brought with it a violent yuan qi gale, and without any deviation, it landed squarely on Zhou Tong's chest. Bang! The huge force that came from his chest caused Zhou Tong, who was already heavily injured, to be forced back several feet before he could stabilize his body. Poochie! A mouthful of dark red blood spurted out, and Zhou Tong's complexion became bloodless. Zhou Tong was only half a step into the true martial realm, but Chen Ming was at the peak of the true martial realm. The difference between the two was like heaven and earth. In other words, if Chen Ming wanted to kill Zhou Tong, it would be very easy. In that instant, Chen Ming indeed had the thought of killing Zhou Tong, but this thought was quickly extinguished by him. After all, this was the alchemy union. His authority was not so great that he could openly kill someone here. Humph! I must find a chance to kill you, only then can I resolve the hatred in my heart. Looking at the weak Zhou Tong, Chen Ming snorted, and a hint of killing intent surfaced in his eyes. If you know what's good for you, hurry up and scram. Chen Ming stared coldly at Zhou Tong and said in a deep voice, I don't want to say the same thing twice. Today, unless you kill me, I will not leave. Zhou Tong stood up from the ground with difficulty and said angrily, You don't dare to take off your clothes because you have a guilty conscience. What? Zhou Tong's words caused the originally doubtful crowd to instantly start discussing. What Zhou Tong said, it can't be true, right? A martial artist said. How is that possible? Zhou Tong is talking nonsense. He must be jealous of Master Chen, that's why he's slandering Master Chen. A second-grade alchemist who was on good terms with Chen Ming denied. Since Zhou Tong is slandering, Chen Ming should take off his clothes to prove his innocence. A peak third-grade alchemist did not give Chen Ming any face and said in a deep voice. Yeah, such a simple matter, but Chen Ming made it so complicated. Another third-grade alchemist echoed, They can settle their grudges themselves, what's the point of making a scene here? Isn't this delaying our business? It's all because Zhou Tong is being unreasonable. The second-grade alchemist mumbled. If I were Master Chen, I would have thrown Zhou Tong out of the Alchemy Union a long time ago. Why would I let him run wild here? Hearing the discussions of the surrounding martial artists, Chen Ming's face turned ashen. He did not expect that this matter would arouse the dissatisfaction of some of the alchemists. Fortunately, among the dissatisfied alchemists, the highest level was only the peak of the third grade, the same as him. Zhou Tong, throwing you out of the Alchemy Union was not my idea. It was everyone's idea. You are wasting everyone's time here. Chen Ming rolled his eyes and said in a clear voice, In order to maintain the order of the Alchemy Union, I can only throw you out. Then, Chen Ming slowly came before Zhou Tong. Under Zhou Tong's horrified gaze, Chen Ming kicked him in the back. Bang! Zhou Tong's body was like a kite with a broken string, flying straight out of the Alchemy Union. Hee, I've embarrassed myself in front of everyone. After kicking Zhou Tong out, Chen Ming smiled and said, Zhou Tong came to cause trouble, I am also responsible. I will do my best from now on. Do your best to kick any martial artist who has a grudge against you out of the Alchemy Union? Before Chen Ming finished his sentence, his expression changed drastically. In front of the main entrance of the Alchemy Union, a martial artist slowly walked in. Behind him, there were a total of 4 martial artists. 2 martial artists held Zhou Tong, and a young lady around 20 years old followed behind them. Zhou Tong came here to cause trouble. I have already done my best by not killing him. Chen Ming said coldly. If you dare to come and cause trouble again, don't blame me for not being courteous. If that's the case, I have to thank you. Ningyu smiled, then changed the topic and said coldly, Say it, what do you want to thank me for? Arrogant. This is the Alchemy Union, it's not a place for you to behave atrociously. Chen Ming roared in anger. His soul force swept out and pressed down on Ningyu. Towards Chen Ming's soul force, Ningyu did not take it to heart. He turned around and said, President Zhou, what kind of grudge do you have with this guy, tell me? Back then, we were both from Tianqian City's Alchemy Union, and we were the most likely contenders for the position of president. Zhou Tong explained. The old president proposed a test. Whoever could refine a third-grade medicinal pill could become the president of Tianqian City's Alchemy Union. Who knew that Chen Ming used the snake heart flower, and was discovered by the old president. Because of this, he was expelled from the Alchemy Union, expelled from Tianqian City. From then on, he bore a grudge against me. So it's the snake heart flower. Ningyu nodded, then said, No wonder this guy's forehead was faintly black, and his fingertips were pale yellow. All the signs indicated that he must have suffered from the backlash of the snake heart flower. Ningyu continued, If I'm not wrong, there must be a mark left behind by the backlash on his chest. Fine, I'll let everyone see his true colors. As he spoke, Ningyu walked towards Chen Ming step by step. Ningyu's speed was very slow, every step he took was heavy on the ground, making loud thuds. Who is he? It's Ningyu, the core disciple of Danwu College's Sacred Institute, Ningyu. What? He's the martial artist who won the first place in the Sacred Institute's test. That's right, I heard that Ningyu came from Tianxian City, but I didn't think much of it. Now it seems that I'm behind the times. Yeah, Chen Ming offended Zhou Tong. Doesn't that mean he offended Ningyu as well? Hee, this is going to be a good show. The discussions of the surrounding martial artists entered Chen Ming's ears, causing his expression to change drastically, and his heart to sink to the bottom of the valley. He had heard of Ningyu before. Not only was his soul force strong, his abilities were also very high. Although Wei Zhe and Ningyu's intense battle had been suppressed by Wei Zhe, Chen Ming still found out from various sources that Ningyu's true abilities were around the middle stage of the Yuan Dan stage. This was because Wei Zhe was a middle stage Yuan Dan stage martial artist. The fact that Ningyu could fight him to a draw and even had the upper hand was enough to prove that Ningyu's abilities were exceptionally strong. Ningyu, this is the Alchemy Union, and I'm from the Alchemy Union. As he watched Ningyu approach him step by step, Chen Ming tried his best to calm himself down. Rip! However, before he could finish his sentence, Ningyu suddenly sped up, and at the same time, a small flying sword appeared in his hand, directly cutting off his shirt. Hiss! Just as Chen Ming's shirt was cut off, the surrounding martial artists could not help but suck in a breath of cold air. Some of the lower-level martial artists even felt their scalps go numb, faintly unable to control themselves. On Chen Ming's chest, there was a small black snake coiled around him. The small snake was only the size of a palm, and on its head was a flower the size of a thumb. Chapter 562. Zhao Bo. The Snake Heart Flower Backlash Mark. The small black snake on Chen Ming's chest was the mark caused by the snake heart flower backlash. No wonder Chen Ming didn't dare to take off his shirt. He really used the snake heart flower and suffered the backlash. There's going to be a good show this time. Chen Ming is a member of the Alchemy Union. For Ningyu to teach him a lesson here, he's more or less looking down on the Alchemy Union. You can't say that. Chen Ming was completely at fault in this matter. Ningyu's actions are understandable. Even if the higher-ups of the Alchemy Union come out, they won't be able to say anything. Let's watch for now. No matter what, the Alchemy Union will definitely intervene. Seeing the small snake mark on Chen Ming's chest, the surrounding martial artists instantly pointed their spears at him. In the world of alchemy, the snake heart flower was a taboo ingredient. It was fine if it was used behind someone's back, but if others found out about it, the consequences would be unimaginable. Feng Zi. Ningyu ignored the surrounding martial artists' discussions and called out in a deep voice. Here. Feng Zi took a step forward and arrived beside Ningyu. The injuries that Chairman Zhou suffered, pay Chen Ming back double. Ningyu said coldly. Understood. Feng Zi nodded his head and walked towards Chen Ming step by step. Ningyu, this is the Alchemy Union. Aren't you afraid of being punished by the Alchemy Union if you dare to behave atrociously here? Chen Ming berated as he watched Feng Zi approach him. Chen Ming knew that Ningyu was the true leader. As long as he scared Ningyu, Feng Zi would stop. However, Ningyu turned a deaf ear to his words and actually started chatting with Lu Wei. Ningyu's actions made Chen Ming gnash his teeth in anger, but there was nothing he could do. Stop! Before Feng Zi reached Chen Ming's side, a loud shout rang out from within the Alchemy Union. Following this loud shout, a figure slowly walked out of the Alchemy Union. The figure came to Chen Ming's side and said coldly to Ningyu, "This is the Alchemy Union, it's not a place for you to behave atrociously." 5th grade apothecary? When Ningyu saw the cultivator who suddenly appeared, he raised his eyebrows and said indifferently, "A life for a life." Chen Ming injured Chairman Zhou earlier for no reason at all. It's time to return the favor. Feng Zi, what are you still standing there for? Then, Ning Yu's face turned cold as he said in a deep voice. Got it. Hearing Ning Yu's words, Feng Zi rose from the ground and charged at Chen Ming. At the same time, Feng Zi's fist emitted a violent surge of vital energy as he punched towards Chen Ming's chest. Although Feng Zi's cultivation was only at the early primal core stage, his strength was incomparably valiant, and he could even contend with an ordinary martial artist who was half a step into the yin-yang realm. Chen Ming was only at the peak of the true martial realm. How could he be Feng Zi's opponent? Elder Zhao, save me! Feeling the billowing vital energy fluctuation from Feng Zi's body, Chen Ming's expression changed drastically as he hurriedly cried out, courting death. Zhao Bo was furious, extremely furious. He did not expect that after he appeared, Ning Yu would still dare to give an order. Swoosh! In the next moment, Zhao Bo rose from the ground, intending to severely injure Feng Zi. Your opponent is me. However, just as Zhao Bo moved, Ning Yu smiled and blocked in front of him. Bang! Facing Ning Yu's sudden attack, Zhao Bo could only give up on attacking, and instead threw a punch. Unable to avoid, it collided with Ning Yu's fist. A crisp sound rang out, and immediately, the two figures retreated quickly. Ning Yu only took half a step back, while Zhao Bo retreated to the exit of the Alchemy Union before stabilizing his body. With this move, it was obvious who was stronger. What? Ning Yu's strength is so strong? Other than being a fifth-grade alchemist, Zhao Bo himself is also at the half-step yin-yang stage. He's actually at a disadvantage in a fight with Ning Yu. Zhao Bo must have been careless. That's right, Zhao Bo wanted to save Chen Ming, but he never thought that Ning Yu would suddenly attack. If I'm not wrong, Zhao Bo only used 50% of his strength. While the surrounding martial artists were shocked by Ning Yu's move, most of them were finding excuses for Zhao Bo. After all, Zhao Bo was a martial artist who had been famous in the Alchemy Union for a long time, while Ning Yu had only recently risen. Whether it was cultivation or soul force strength, everyone believed that Zhao Bo had the absolute advantage. Just then, two consecutive pig-slaughtering screams rang out. Chen Ming fell heavily on the ground and fell face first into the mud. Other than that, Chen Ming's aura was abnormally weak. It was obvious that Feng Zi had completely followed Ning Yu's instructions, giving Chen Ming twice as many injuries as Zhou Tong. Ning Yu, this is the Alchemy Union, not Danwu College. Not being able to save Chen Ming personally, Zhao Bo felt that he had lost face and was embarrassed. Being embarrassed in front of everyone, Zhao Bo naturally wanted to get back at him. Could it be that you want to start a war between Danwu College and the Alchemy Union? Zhao Bo rolled his eyes and said coldly. First, I want to correct a few mistakes in your words. Ning Yu shrugged and said indifferently, First, I can't represent Danwu College, and you can't represent the Alchemy Union. Second, I don't want to start a war between Danwu College and the Alchemy Union because I don't have this qualification, and you don't have it either. Ah! Zhao Bo laughed maniacally and said sinisterly, No matter what, you're fated to not have a good ending for causing trouble here today. Ning Yu, if there's nothing else, let's leave the Alchemy Union and prepare for tomorrow's alchemy competition. Seeing that Ning Yu wanted to say something, Zhou Tong hurriedly said. Zhou Tong had always thought that the martial artist who obtained first place in Danwu College's Sacred Institute examination only had the same name as Ning Yu. Who would have thought that the martial artist was Ning Yu? And Zhou Tong's main purpose for coming here this time was to find someone else to participate in the alchemy competition. Now that Ning Yu had appeared, there was no need for him to find someone else. Moreover, this was the Alchemy Union, and the power inside was complicated. Zhou Tong was afraid that Ning Yu would be at a disadvantage, so he kept urging Ning Yu to leave. President Zhou, don't worry. I know what I'm doing. How could Ning Yu not know what Zhou Tong was thinking, but he didn't care. With his current strength and status, even if the higher management of the Alchemy Union appeared, they might not be able to take him down. Moreover, today's matter was Chen Ming's fault. If the higher management of the Alchemy Union dared to protect Chen Ming, Ningyu would let them know that there were some things they could do, and some things they couldn't. The Alchemy Union had a total of 8 floors. At the same time, in a room on the 8th floor of the Alchemy Union. Truly a young talent. There were only 2 martial artists in the room. To be more precise, they were 2 old men. One of the old men dressed in black smiled and said, "Danshenzi, how does Ningyu compare to your last disciple, Yi Tian?" Yi Tian is not Ningyu's opponent. Chapter 563. A piece of supreme-grade essence crystal Yi Tian had lost to Ningyu twice, and Danshenzi knew this very well. Danshenzi had always wanted to meet Ningyu. He wanted to know who was able to defeat his last disciple so easily. Before he went into seclusion, Yi Tian's alchemy skills were among the best among his peers. Even if he wasn't top 3, he was at least top 5. Who would have thought that after he came out of seclusion, he would find out that Yi Tian had lost to the same person twice. Furthermore, that person came from Tianxian City, a remote city. Not simple. To have such a strong soul force and cultivation at such a young age, he could even participate in the Danwu College's Sacred Sun exam. The black-robed elder revealed a grave expression and said, even in the entire Great Xia Kingdom's Alchemy Union, he could be ranked top 3. He could even fight for first place. First place? You are overestimating him. Danshenzi smirked and said, if I didn't guess wrongly, among the younger generations of the Alchemy Union, at least 3 have reached the peak of 5th grade soul force. For this alchemy competition, your Alchemy Union has put in a lot of effort. The Alchemy Union and Danwu College had reached an agreement. The top 3 martial artists in the alchemy competition could represent Danwu College to participate in the 100 Academy tournament. If it was in the past, the Alchemy Union would never agree to this request. But it was different now. The conditions offered by Danwu College were too attractive to the Alchemy Union. It was so attractive that they couldn't reject it. To put it simply, any martial artist who obtained the top 3 in the alchemy competition could enter Danwu College's forbidden area unconditionally, the Elixir Cavern to cultivate for a day and a night. The Elixir Cavern was the forbidden area of Danwu College. The Alchemy Union had always wanted to know what was inside, but they couldn't find out. They definitely didn't want to let go of this opportunity. Danshenzi, I don't believe that you don't want to explore the Elixir Cavern. The black-robed elder said, you have been in seclusion for so long, but didn't you advance from early stage to mid-stage grade 8? In the vast capital, only those from Danwu College can enhance their soul strength to the middle stage of level 8. Don't you have any ideas? I do have an idea. A serious look appeared in Danshenzi's eyes. However, we cannot be reckless. It is not easy to enter the pill cave. We need to plan this carefully. I naturally know that this matter needs to be considered at length. The black-clothed martial artist smiled and said, are you interested in meeting Ningyu? Or should I say, asking him to come up? Danshenzi pondered for a moment, then shook his head and said, you can go see him if you want. I have something to take care of. Buzz. As he spoke, Danshenzi's body gradually became illusory and quickly disappeared. Sigh. Seeing Danshenzi disappear, the black-clothed cultivator softly sighed and muttered, I wonder if working with Danshenzi this time was the right decision. Ningyu, you know what you're doing? What sense of propriety do you have? On the first floor of the Alchemy Union, Zhao Bo's face was filled with anger. Through the exchange just now, Zhao Bo had already determined the gap between him and Ningyu. He was not Ningyu's opponent at all. Zhao Bo was not an idiot. Since he knew that he was not Ningyu's opponent, he would not foolishly rush up and fight Ningyu. At this moment, half of the anger on his face was real, and the other half was fake. Just now, He had already contacted the third-ranked genius of the Alchemy Union, Situ-1. What he needed to do now was to delay Ningyu. He could not let Ningyu leave the Alchemy Union. When Situ-1 arrives, I will definitely make you lose all your face. Zhao Bo obviously did not know that Ningyu's skill in alchemy was greater than his martial skills. There were very few people in the same generation who could defeat Ningyu in alchemy. From Zhao Bo's point of view, Ningyu's soul force was only at the middle stage of grade 5, which was only one level stronger than him. Situ-Wen's soul force was at the peak of grade 5. Wouldn't it be easy for him to defeat Ningyu in alchemy? Ningyu, let's leave quickly. Lu Wei was nervous. She quietly pulled on the corner of Ningyu's shirt and whispered, "The less trouble, the better." That's what I was thinking too. Ningyu thought for a while and felt that there was no point in staying any longer. He might as well leave quickly and find a place to stay first. Thus, Ningyu turned around and walked out of the Alchemy Union. Seeing that Ningyu was about to leave, Zhao Bo was dumbfounded. Situ-1 was on his way here. If Ningyu left now, wouldn't his efforts be in vain? No matter what, he had to stop Ningyu. Swoosh. Moving his feet, Zhao Bo steadily blocked in front of Ningyu. Are you going to leave just like that? Zhao Bo said coldly, you injured Qin Ming. No matter what, you have to leave something behind. Ningyu stopped in his tracks. In fact, Ningyu had already sensed the soul force fluctuation from Zhao Bo's body. However, Ningyu didn't want to expose Zhao Bo. He felt that he could use this to blackmail Zhao Bo. What do you want me to leave behind? Ningyu said indifferently. You. Zhao Bo pointed his finger at Ningyu and said in a deep voice, you can't leave anyway. Swoosh. Zhao Bo's unreasonable behavior directly caused waves of commotion in the surroundings. A dignified grade 5 alchemist wanted Ningyu to leave something behind but didn't say what it was. Had he lost his mind? Hee, do you think Ningyu will leave directly? I guess he will. After all, this is the Alchemy Union. Only an idiot would stay. That's right. Since so much time has passed and the higher-ups of the Alchemy Union didn't show up, they must have tacitly agreed that Ningyu can leave. However, Zhao Bo came out to stop Ningyu. It's a bit unreasonable. The discussions of the surrounding martial artists caused Zhao Bo's expression to turn extremely ugly. However, thinking that Situ-1 would appear later, Zhao Bo felt slightly better. Hold on for a few more minutes. In a few more minutes, Situ-1 will be here. Zhao Bo was silently counting the time. At this moment, he couldn't wait for time to pass a little faster, a little faster. It's fine if you don't let me leave, but you have to promise me one thing. Ningyu raised an eyebrow and his gaze fell on Zhao Bo's waist. There was a storage bag there. With Ningyu's super strong soul force, he naturally found out that there were 50,000 supreme grade yuan crystals in the storage bag. Ningyu didn't care why Zhao Bo had 50,000 supreme grade yuan crystals. In short, these yuan crystals were very useful to him. The Red Demon Sword needed 200,000 supreme grade yuan crystals to advance to the monarch rank. Now, he was still short of 100,000. If he obtained the 50,000 supreme grade yuan crystals on Zhao Bo, then he would only be left with 50,000. 50,000 supreme grade yuan crystals. In 3 days, Ningyu was confident that he could get it. What is it? Zhao Bo asked in a deep voice. It's not a big deal. It's just that the storage bag on your waist has a nice design. It's the type I like. Chapter 564. Chapter 564. Change of structure, a piece of supreme essence crystal? Zhao Bo stretched out a finger and pointed at his own nose. Do I look like an idiot to you? Hearing Zhao Bo's strange request, Ningyu stared at Zhao Bo seriously. After a while, Ningyu nodded and said, yes, very much so. If you didn't mention it, I wouldn't have realized that you look so much like an idiot. Ah! Ningyu's words caused the surrounding martial artists to roar with laughter. The surrounding martial artists laughed, but Zhao Bo's expression darkened to the extreme. "I'll endure it. Endure for a few more minutes." Zhao Bo forcefully suppressed the anger in his heart and took off the storage bag at his waist. He said in a low voice, "It's not impossible if you want this storage bag. As long as your soul force reaches early stage rank 5, I can give it to you unconditionally." Hearing this, Ningyu was dumbfounded for a moment and stood rooted to the ground. In this world, could there really be such an idiot? If one's soul force reached early stage rank 5, they could get 50,000 Supreme Essence crystals. What was the difference between this and giving it away for free? After a short moment of shock, Ningyu said, "Zhao Bo, you said it. You can't go back on your words later." "Why would I, Zhao Bo, do something that would go back on my words?" Zhao Bo snorted coldly. He reached into his pocket and took out a crystal ball. On the crystal ball there were 5 dots of light. This crystal ball is specially used to check soul force. A rank 1 soul force can light up 1 dot, a rank 2 soul force can light up 2. Waving the crystal ball in his hand, Zhao Bo said, "As long as you can light up all 5 dots and emit a dazzling light, it means that your soul force has reached early stage rank 5. When that time comes, I will naturally give you the storage bag." Whoosh! When the surrounding martial artists saw the crystal ball in Zhao Bo's hand, they all revealed a look of realization. Some of the martial artists even began to discuss in low voices. Zhao Bo is up to no good again." "Up to no good? What do you mean?" "Those who often come into contact with Zhao Bo know that there's something wrong with his crystal ball." "That's right. There's definitely something wrong with the crystal ball. The first 4 light spots are fine. As long as one's soul power reaches the 4th grade, they will be able to light up. However, the 5th light spot has a big problem." A peak grade 4 alchemist said in a deep voice, "Don't even mention a grade 5 soul force, even if it reached grade 6, it would still be impossible to light up the 5th light dot. Doesn't that mean that Ningyu will definitely lose?" "Of course. Fortunately, Ningyu doesn't have to pay a price if he fails." Otherwise, after knowing that there was a problem with Zhao Bo's crystal ball, some martial artists began to cry out for justice for Ningyu. Of course, most of them felt that Ningyu was lucky. However, before the last martial artist could finish his sentence, he opened his mouth slightly and thought to himself that he really was a jink. Zhao Bo once again hung the storage bag on his waist and sinisterly said, "Ningyu, my stake is the storage bag. What's yours?" "I still want to bet?" Ningyu opened his mouth and then calmed down. Without batting an eyelid, he said, "What do you want to bet?" "Very simple. If you lose, you have to stay here for 5 minutes. You can't go anywhere." Zhao Bo said coldly, "I can't accept this bet." Ningyu shook his head. "Ha ha ha, you can't even accept this bet?" Zhao Bo laughed at the sky and then said coldly, "Can you not look like you've lost your mind?" Ningyu glanced at Zhao Bo and then said, "What I mean is, I'll add another 50,000 Supreme Yuan crystals. If I win, give me the storage bag and then give me 50,000 Transcendent Grade Origin crystals. If I lose, I'll stay here for 5 minutes and then give you 50,000 Supreme Yuan crystals." Swoosh! Ningyu's bold words directly caused the surrounding martial artists to be momentarily stunned. Could it be that Ningyu was an idiot? Clearly, there was something wrong with Zhao Bo's crystal ball. How could Ningyu still dare to increase the bet? Furthermore, it was 50,000 Transcendent Grade Yuan crystals at once. Ningyu even said that Zhao Bo has lost his mind. In my opinion, he's the one who has lost his mind. I don't understand this either. It's clear that Zhao Bo will win. Ningyu, there's something wrong with Zhao Bo's crystal ball. You mustn't bet with him. In the end, even several martial artists who had grudges with Zhao Bo started to speak up to warn Ningyu. Since you're seeking death, don't blame me. Zhao Bo knew that he would definitely win, so he agreed to Ningyu without hesitation. Furthermore, fearing that Ningyu would go back on his word, Zhao Bo even swore a heavenly Tao oath in front of everyone. After swearing the heavenly Tao oath, Zhao Bo looked at Ningyu provocatively. The meaning was self-evident. Don't worry. I'll definitely swear the heavenly Tao oath. Ningyu shrugged and then also swore the heavenly Tao oath in front of everyone. Dong. Seeing that Ningyu swore the heavenly Tao oath, Zhao Bo directly threw the crystal ball on the counter and said in a deep voice, "Let's begin. Inject your soul force into the crystal ball." Ningyu did not have the slightest bit of hesitation as he slowly walked toward the counter. A moment later, Ningyu came in front of the counter. He extended his right hand and placed it on the crystal ball. Ding! Just as Ningyu's palm touched the crystal ball, a light spot lit up. Ding! Ding! Immediately after, the second and third light spots also lit up. How can the light spots light up so quickly? Could it be that Ningyu can light up the fifth light spot? You're thinking too much. The speed at which the first few light spots lit up means that Ningyu's soul force has most likely reached the fifth grade. Yes, but for Ningyu to light up the fifth light spot is as difficult as ascending to the heavens. Ding! While the surrounding martial artists were discussing, the fourth light spot lit up very quickly. After the first four light spots were lit up, the crystal ball seemed to have disappeared without any signs of lighting up. You want to light up the fifth light spot? Even a sixth-grade alchemist can't do it. How can you, a mere fifth-grade alchemist, do it? Seeing that the crystal ball had no reaction, the corner of Zhao Bo's mouth curled up as a trace of disdain appeared in his eyes. I paid a huge price for this crystal ball and hired a seventh-grade alchemist to tamper with it. If I let you light up the fifth light spot so easily, wouldn't that be terrible? There's indeed something wrong with the crystal ball. The structure inside has been changed. Ningyu injected his soul force into the crystal ball while checking the structure inside. In his previous life, Ningyu had even personally made a crystal ball like this to test the strength of soul force. Therefore, very quickly, Ningyu discovered the problem inside the crystal ball. With Ningyu's current soul force strength, it was very difficult to change the structure in a short period of time. Since I can't change the structure, I'll borrow a bit of Sun Jiangwen's soul force and just need to light up the fifth light spot. Ningyu had an idea and directly communicated with Sun Jiangwen. Can you do it or not? If you can't, just stop and hand over the 50,000 supreme grade crystals. Chapter 565. Chapter 565 of Historia Matter of Pride Rumble. Just as Zhao Bo was happily crossing his legs, an earth-shattering roar resounded. Immediately, the crystal ball on the counter exploded with 5 blinding rays of light. What? That's impossible. The sudden change made Zhao Bo's expression change drastically. Due to his nervousness, Zhao Bo almost fell to the ground. Even so, Zhao Bo's expression was as ugly as a pig's liver. He never expected that something that was originally in the bag would have a variable. Moreover, this variable was something that he could never have guessed. Not only did Ningyu light up the fifth light spot, but it also exploded with a scorching light along with the other 4 light spots. What's going on? Why is the fifth light spot shining? I don't know either. Logically speaking, it's impossible. Could it be that Ningyu's soul strength has reached grade 6? It's also impossible for him to reach grade 6. Zhao Bo's crystal ball claims that only a grade 7 alchemist can light up the fifth light spot. Doesn't that mean that Ningyu's soul strength has reached grade 7? Swoosh. The last martial artist's voice fell and the surroundings fell silent. This kind of silence was abnormally scary. Even the sound of breathing could not be heard. The way everyone looked at Ningyu had a very obvious change. Such a young grade 7 alchemist could no longer be described as a freak or genius. It could only be described as abnormal. No, Ningyu's soul strength has not reached grade 7. It's only grade 5. At this moment, a grade 5 alchemist said in a low voice, "The reason why Ning Yu can light up the 5th light spot is very likely because Zhao Bo took the wrong crystal ball." What the F***? That's possible. It's really possible. Look at Zhao Bo's face. It's as if he ate **t. Hearing that, the surrounding martial artists all turned their gazes to Zhao Bo. At this moment, Zhao Bo's heart was filled with mixed feelings and he felt very uncomfortable. What that martial artist said earlier was right. He indeed felt as uncomfortable as if he ate **t. To be precise, it was more uncomfortable than eating **t. There were originally 50,000 transcendent grade essence crystals in the storage bag, and now he had to give Ning Yu another 50,000. Adding it all up, it was 100,000. 100,000 transcendent grade essence crystals. Even if he went bankrupt, he could not take it out. Furthermore, the 50,000 supreme grade essence crystals in the storage pouch did not belong to him, but to Situ-1. If he handed it over to Ning Yu now, when Situ-1 came over, he would not be able to explain himself. If you're willing to bet, you must be willing to lose. Hand over the storage pouch and the 50,000 supreme grade essence crystals. Ning Yu didn't care what Zhao Bo thought. He casually threw the crystal ball to Zhao Bo and said indifferently, "Pa." Holding the crystal ball steadily, Zhao Bo hurriedly sent a wisp of his soul power into it. After a while, Zhao Bo was dumbfounded. This was because the structure of the crystal ball had not changed at all. In other words, only when one's soul power reached the 7th rank would he be able to light up the 5th light. How did Ning Yu do it? Zhao Bo did not believe that Ning Yu's soul force could reach the 7th grade. It was a trick. At this moment, such a thought appeared in Zhao Bo's mind. "Ning Yu, you're cheating." Zhao Bo seemed to have found a life-saving straw and said coldly, "I'm more familiar with my crystal ball than anyone else. Unless one's soul power reaches the 7th rank, it's impossible to light up the 5th light." Swoosh. As soon as Zhao Bo said this, it caused an uproar in the surroundings. Some things, it was better if everyone knew it. Once it was said, it would be different. After all this time, Zhao Bo is the one who has really lost his mind. He's a genuine big dumb C***nt. Hee. He's definitely going to have to bear the title of dumb C***nt. He actually dared to say that Ning Yu is cheating? He already admitted that there's a problem with the crystal ball. The one who is cheating is naturally himself. No, that's not what I meant. Hearing the surrounding martial artists' discussion, Zhao Bo also realized that he had let the cat out of the bag and hurriedly tried to salvage the situation. Swoosh. However, before Zhao Bo could finish his sentence, he saw a shadow scurrying past him. "Hand over the remaining 50,000 pieces of supreme grade essence crystals. I'm not interested in wasting time here with a dumb C***nt. Not far away, Ning Yu kept the storage bag in his hand and said indifferently. Zhao Bo's eyes widened. Lowering his head to look at his waist, he then said hysterically, "Ning Yu, that's my storage bag. What right do you have to take it away?" "It's not your storage pouch, it's my storage pouch." Ning Yu said, "Stop bullshitting. Hurry up and take out the remaining 50,000 pieces of supreme grade essence crystals. I still have to hurry on my way." "Alright, let me give you a friendly reminder." Ning Yu seemed to have thought of something and said again, "As long as you have the confidence to resist the heavenly oath, you don't have to hand over the 50,000 pieces of supreme grade essence crystals to me. You." Zhao Bo's face was gloomy, his chest heaving up and down. Losing the bride and losing the soldiers. This time, he really went for wool and came home shorn, losing the bride and losing the soldiers. Not only did Ning Yu take the 50,000 supreme grade essence crystals from his storage bag, but he also had to give Ning Yu another 50,000 supreme grade essence crystals. Zhao Bo's heart was bleeding. Of course, bleeding was secondary. The most important thing was that Zhao Bo did not have 50,000 supreme grade essence crystals. Forget it. It seems like you want to resist the heavenly oath alone. Oh well, I won't stay here to watch you fight against the heavenly oath. Let's not meet again. Ningyu shrugged his shoulders. He then winked at Lu Wei and the rest before walking out of the Alchemy Union. Why don't you do me a favor and forget about what happened between you and Zhao Bo? However, just as Ningyu arrived at the entrance of the Alchemy Union, he was blocked by a young man. The young man was around 24 or 25 years old. He was dressed in blue and there was a hint of anger between his brows. Situ-1. It's Situ-1. This is going to be interesting. Situ-1 is the third most talented alchemist in the Alchemy Union. Not only is he a fifth realm alchemist, but he has also reached the peak of the Yuan Dan stage. I heard that when Situ-1 was in the advanced stage of the Yuan Dan stage, he was able to fight against a martial artist who was half a step into the Yin-Yang stage. Now that he has reached the peak of the Yuan Dan stage, doesn't that mean he can fight against a martial artist in the beginning stage of the Yin-Yang stage? Let's wait and see. I wonder if Ningyu will give Situ-1 some face. Ningyu sized up the young man in front of him, then frowned and said indifferently, I can give you face. Hearing Ningyu's words, Situ-1's lips curled up. Very well. If anything happens in the capital, you can, however, before Situ-1 could finish his sentence, his face darkened. But is your face worth 50,000 supreme grade essence crystals? Ningyu changed the topic and said, Zhao Bo owes me 50,000 supreme grade yuan crystals. In short, unless you help him pay back 50,000 supreme grade yuan crystals, no one will be able to save face. Good, very good, very good, very, very good. Chapter 566. Battle of Melting Yuan Dan. Good, very good, very good. Very, very good. Ningyu did not care about the fifth realm soul power that was attacking him and repeated what Situ-1 had said. Hey, is there something wrong with you? Why do you have to say it so many times when you can say it in a few words? Ningyu said, Let me give you a friendly reminder. Next time, when you are fighting with others, try not to talk nonsense like this. Because if you say one more word, someone might seize the opportunity to finish you off. How arrogant! How savage! Suddenly, Situ-1 seemed to have received some kind of order, so he stopped. After stopping, Situ-1 became unusually calm and was not affected by Ningyu's words at all. Instead, he said, Ningyu, are you interested in making a bet with me? Not interested. Ningyu didn't even think about it and refused. My current interest is to quickly get the 50,000 transcendent grade essence crystals that Zhao Bo owes me. You. Situ-1 suppressed the anger in his heart and said, As long as you make a bet with me, I will pay back the 50,000 yuan crystals for Zhao Bo. This is not negotiable. Ningyu rejected Situ-1 right away and said, one sentence. First, give me back the 50,000 origin crystals that Zhao Bo owes me, then we can talk about anything else. Swoosh. Hearing this, Situ-1 did not say anything more. He reached into his pocket and took out a storage bag. Situ-1 did not say anything more and threw the storage bag to Ningyu. Pack. Ningyu caught the storage bag and sent some of his soul power into it to check. After a while, Ningyu retracted his soul power and nodded. There are indeed 50,000 yuan crystals in there. What happened between me and Zhao Bo is over. With that, Ningyu walked out of the Alchemy Union. Ningyu, where are you going? Seeing that Ningyu was about to leave, Situ-1 quickly said. Of course I'm leaving the Alchemist Association. Don't tell me I'm going to spend the new year here? Ningyu waved his hand and said. Whoosh. Situ-1's eyes turned cold. He moved and stood in front of Ningyu. Didn't you say that as long as I helped Zhao Bo pay back 50,000 Supreme Origin Crystals, you would agree to fight with me? Situ-1 said coldly. He seemed to be very angry. By what ear did you hear me say that? Ningyu stopped and said, My exact words are, you return the 50,000 pieces of supreme-grade origin crystals that Zhao Bo owes me, and then we'll talk about something else. Then why did you leave? Situ-Wen said angrily. It's very simple. Ningyu stared at Situ-Wen and said, I don't want to talk about anything else right now. Can't I just leave? Or should I say, your family owns the Alchemy Union and you can make the decisions? You're such a coward, Situ-Wen said loudly. As a core disciple of the Sacred Institute of Danwu College, you don't even have the courage to fight with me. Ha ha. What a joke, what a joke. Idiot. Ningyu couldn't be bothered with Situ-Wen. He turned his head slightly and was about to leave from the other side. Coward, if you dare to leave the Alchemy Union today, I will immediately spread the news that you are a coward. Situ-Wen said coldly. Oh yes, you're not the only coward. The Dean of the Sacred Institute, Dongfang Ji, is also a coward. And the people around you, they're all cowards. You're courting death. Hearing Situ-Wen's arrogant words, before Ningyu could make a move, Li Tongtian's eyes flashed with ferocity. He immediately rose from the ground and charged towards Situ-Wen. Li Tongtian was extremely angry. His life was saved by Ningyu. Who did Situ-Wen think he was? How dare he say that Ningyu was a coward? Even though his aunt could tolerate it, his uncle could not. Furthermore, Situ-Wen was only the third most talented person in the Alchemy Union. His alchemy skills were not even as good as Li Tongtian's. Where did he get the courage to fight with Ningyu? A peak primal core martial artist dares to challenge me. Situ-Wen's eyes turned cold. His right hand clenched into a fist, and it collided with Li Tongtian's fist. Pung! As the two fists collided, the two figures quickly retreated. Li Tongtian retreated all the way to the entrance of the Alchemy Union. He even stepped out of the Alchemy Union before he could stabilize himself. As for Situ-Wen, he only retreated 2 to 3 steps before he regained his balance. With this move, it was clear who was stronger. Since you want to die, I will grant you your wish. After this move, Situ-Wen did not stop. Instead, he charged forward once again. His fist carried a strong gust of yuan qi as it headed towards Li Tongtian's chest. Seeing that Situ-Wen had attacked again, Ningyu snorted coldly. Then, he stomped on the ground and appeared in front of Li Tongtian. Piak! Ningyu raised his right hand and caught Situ-Wen's fist in his hand. Situ-Wen, it's just a bet with you. It's no big deal. I will accept it. As Ningyu grabbed Situ-Wen's fist, he said slowly, Tell me, what do you want to bet? With his fist in Ningyu's hand, Situ-Wen's expression was ugly. He channeled all his yuan qi into his fist in an attempt to break free from Ningyu's grasp. However, no matter how hard Situ-Wen tried, he could not break free from Ningyu's grasp. Even when he channeled all his yuan qi into his fist, he still could not retract his fist. Let's bet on alchemy. Situ-Wen gritted his teeth and said, Let's bet on refining the true martial elixir. Whoever can refine the true martial elixir first wins. Sigh. Hearing Situ-Wen's words, Ningyu sighed. What, you don't dare? Situ-Wen raised an eyebrow and said coldly. It's not that I don't dare. I just don't think refining the true martial elixir is interesting. Ningyu let go of his hand and said, In my opinion, why don't we exchange it for a fifth realm elixir? You want to refine a fifth realm elixir? Situ-Wen rolled his eyes and smirked. No problem. Let's refine the fifth realm elixir, the energy refining elixir. Also, whoever can refine the upper grade energy refining elixir first wins. What? They want to compete in refining the energy refining elixir. The energy refining elixir is a fifth realm elixir. It is a necessary elixir for a warrior at the peak of the martial realm to advance to the Yuan Dan realm. Even a normal sixth realm alchemist cannot say that they can refine the energy refining elixir, let alone the upper grade energy refining elixir. That's right. Even a sixth-realm alchemist only has a 20% chance of refining the energy refining elixir. In fact, it was no wonder that the surrounding martial artists were shocked. Among these martial artists, most of them were alchemists, low-level alchemists. The energy refining elixir was a necessary elixir for a true martial realm martial artist to advance to the Yuan Dan realm. Situ-Wen actually said that whoever could refine the upper-grade energy refining elixir first would win. Did Situ-Wen have the confidence to refine the upper-grade energy refining elixir? For a moment, everyone's eyes were on Ningyu. They wanted to see if Ningyu would agree to Situ-Wen's bet. Chapter 567. Chapter 567, Giving Up the Competition. It's not impossible to make the energy transformation, Dan. Being stared at by so many people, Ningyu acted very calmly and said, but there might be some problems with making the high realm energy transformation, Dan. Ha ha ha. Hearing this, Situ-Wen let out a wild laugh towards the sky and said coldly, if you're afraid, then say it. I can change it to a fifth realm, Dan. To Situ-Wen, it was obvious that Ningyu was afraid and did not dare to compete with him in making the energy transformation, Dan. The surrounding warriors were not surprised at all. After all, the energy transformation, Dan, was extremely difficult to make. It was already good enough that Ningyu did not directly reject Situ-Wen. Hey, you might have misunderstood me. Ningyu sighed and said, what I meant was, with the strength of your soul and your level of alchemy, it will take you a long time to make the high realm energy transformation, Dan. I don't have that much time to waste with you. It's simple. Let's not use the high realm energy transformation, Dan, as the key to victory. How about we use the low realm energy transformation, Dan? As soon as he spoke, Ningyu stared at Situ-Wen, quietly waiting for his reply. Low realm energy transformation, Dan? Why would I be afraid of you? Situ-Wen said in a low voice, let's each prepare for 5 minutes. After 5 minutes, we will start making the energy transformation, Dan. Wait, Ningyu said again. What else do you want? Situ-Wen was very angry. After being messed around by Ningyu, his mood was in a mess. What do I need to prepare? You want to compete with me in making the energy transformation, Dan. Of course, you need to prepare the ingredients for me. Ningyu said matter-of-factly. Also, if the conditions allow, you need to prepare a cauldron for me. As long as the quality is not too low, there are no hard and fast requirements. You. Situ-Wen clenched his teeth in anger. However, when he thought of how Ningyu would be defeated later, he forcefully suppressed the anger in his heart. With a flick of his sleeve, a storage bag was immediately thrown towards Ningyu. But Ningyu caught the storage bag steadily and sent a bit of his perception into the storage bag. After a while, Ningyu withdrew his perception, nodded and said, 3 sets of medicinal ingredients for refining the origin melting pill. Not bad, looks like you're not stingy. How could I be stingy? Not to mention 3 sets of ingredients for refining the soul melting pill, even if it was 8 or 10 sets. Situ-Wen said proudly. Stop. However, before Situ-Wen could finish his sentence, Ningyu hurriedly said, I know you have a lot of ingredients and are rich and overbearing. Why don't you give me the cauldron first? Before he could finish, he was interrupted by Ningyu. Situ-Wen coldly snorted and said to Zhao Bo, take out your pill furnace and let Ningyu use it. Zhao Bo was very reluctant. First, Ningyu made him lose face, and now he wanted to use his cauldron? But Situ-Wen had spoken, so Zhao Bo had no choice but to obediently take out the cauldron and throw it to Ningyu. Taking the cauldron, Ningyu looked at it from top to bottom and curled his lips. I can't believe that a 5th realm alchemist would use such a low-quality cauldron. I was unlucky this time. I will just have to make do with it. Zhao Bo almost spat out a mouthful of blood. His cauldron was ranked in the top 500 of the Earth ranking. How could Ning Yu say it was a low-quality cauldron? The cauldrons on the Earth ranking were all low-quality cauldrons. To Ning Yu, only the cauldrons on the Heaven ranking could be considered high-quality cauldrons? Situwen, take out your alchemy furnace and let everyone have a look. Let's see how different it is from the alchemy furnace in my hand. Ning Yu shook the alchemy furnace in his hand and said to Situwen, "Damn it." Situwen did not expect Ning Yu to do this and was stunned. He had 2 cauldrons in total. One was ranked 60th on the Earth ranking and the other was only on the mortal ranking. Originally, he wanted to use the cauldron on the Earth ranking. But after hearing Ning Yu's words, he gritted his teeth and took out the cauldron on the mortal ranking. "Ning Yu, don't say that I am bullying you. The cauldron I am using now is even worse than the one in your hand. What do you have to say now?" Situwen said through gritted teeth. "Of course not." Ning Yu shrugged and said, "It is your right to use whatever cauldron you want. I have no right to interfere." Damn it. If they were not at the Alchemy Union, Situwen would have wanted to teach Ning Yu a lesson. In the current situation, if he were to teach Ning Yu a lesson, he would definitely be cursed by everyone. After all, his martial arts strength was incomparable to Zhao Bo's. It could be said that he could fight 10 half-step Yin-Yang realm martial artists like Zhao Bo. Sigh, I can't believe that a genius of the Alchemy Union would say such an indecent word. Ning Yu sighed again and waved his hand. Forget it. Let's hurry up and refine the essence conversion pill. I don't want to stay here for a second longer. Swoosh. As he spoke, Ning Yu threw the cauldron above his head. At the same time, he separated some yuan qi to wrap around the bottom of the cauldron, supporting it to float in midair. Ning Yu, let me tell you a very bad news. Situwen also threw the cauldron in midair and sneered. During this period of time, I have been refining essence conversion pills every day. Low-grade essence conversion pills? I only need half an hour to refine them. Puff. Ning Yu laughed out loud. Half an hour to refine low-grade essence conversion pills, was that fast? One had to know that the last time Ning Yu refined a transcendent-grade essence conversion pill, it only took him 15 minutes. If he was refining low-grade essence conversion pills, Ning Yu's speed might reach an abnormal level. Based on his initial estimation, he could refine a furnace of low-grade essence conversion pills in about 3 to 4 minutes. What is Ning Yu laughing at? I don't know. Is he scared silly? It's hard to say. Situwen can refine low-grade essence conversion pills in half an hour. This level of alchemy, even many 6th-grade alchemists are ashamed of their inferiority. Refining low-grade essence conversion pills in half an hour. It seems that Situwen must have refined transcendent-grade essence conversion pills before. Voila! The last martial artist's words directly caused an uproar. Transcendent-grade essence conversion pill? That was a heaven-defying pill. If an ordinary martial artist at the peak of the true martial realm could get his hands on a transcendent-grade essence conversion pill, he would basically be able to advance to the Yuan Dan realm. Ah! If you are afraid, you can admit defeat. I won't make things difficult for you. The words of the surrounding martial artists made Situwen feel very comfortable. He first laughed wildly, then changed the topic and said sinisterly, "However, you have to return Zhao Bo's storage bag and the 50,000 transcendent-grade yuan crystals, and, speaking up to here," Situwen paused for a moment, then continued, "you have to give up this alchemy competition." You want me to give up the alchemy competition? Ning Yu hesitated for a moment, then said, "That's right, you can only admit defeat if you give up participating in the alchemy competition." Chapter 568. Ning Yu's arrogance. Oh, if that's the case, should I thank you? Ning Yu raised his eyebrows and said, "You don't have to thank me. All you have to do is to swear to the heavens and give up on the competition." Situwen waved his hand and said, "I am not an unreasonable person. Plus, you are a guest. I will not make things difficult for you. Aren't you afraid of losing to me? Ningyu asked casually. Lose? Situwen pointed at his nose and laughed. In my mind, there is no such thing as losing. Can I ask you a question? Ningyu looked at Situwen and asked solemnly. What question? Situwen frowned and felt that something was wrong. You claim to have never been defeated. Why are you only ranked third among the younger generation in the Alchemist Union? Although Ningyu's voice was not loud, all the cultivators in the Alchemy Association's main hall heard him clearly. In an instant, the way the surrounding martial artists looked at Situwen changed. Bragging was fine, but bragging too much was somewhat inexcusable. Crack. Situwen was extremely angry. Ningyu had exposed his shortcomings in front of so many people. How was he going to stand in the Alchemist Union in the future? It was true that he was ranked third among the younger generation in the Alchemist Union. However, that was a few months ago. After a few months of training, he was confident that he could fight for the #1 genius position in the Alchemist Union. Forget it. I don't have time to talk nonsense with you. Ningyu did not care about Situwen's anger. A blue flame appeared on the tip of his right hand and burned at the bottom of the cauldron. Energy Transformation Elixir was a peak grade 5 elixir. The temperature required to concoct it was very high. Although it was only a lower grade energy transformation elixir, Ningyu had to do it properly and not let the surrounding martial artists find out. Whoosh! Seeing that Ningyu had started to refine the pill, Situwen did not dare to delay. He suppressed the anger in his heart and immediately threw a medicinal ingredient into the furnace. At the same time, Situwen released his peak rank 5 soul power and sent it into the cauldron. He started to refine the herbs. Under normal circumstances, Situwen would be able to refine a low-grade essence melting pill within half an hour. However, in order to make the low-tier essence melting Dan as soon as possible and make Ningyu lose completely, Situwen decided to take the risk and increase his speed again. Whoosh! Whoosh! In the main hall of the Alchemy Union, Situwen was extremely focused as he continuously threw ingredients into the furnace. On the other hand, Ningyu was calm and unhurried. Ningyu was not anxious, but Zhou Tong and Lu Wei were quite anxious. Feng Zi, at this rate, Ningyu might fail, Lu Wei said anxiously. That's right, Situwen's speed has obviously increased. If I'm not wrong, in another 20 minutes, he will be able to refine a lower-grade energy transformation elixir. Zhou Tong looked at Ningyu, then looked at Situwen and said worriedly, unless Ningyu speeds up, he will definitely fail. I believe in Ningyu. Feng Zi had already seen Ningyu's strength, and he was very confident in Ningyu. Don't worry, Ningyu's alchemy level is above mine. Li Tongtian was not worried at all. Firstly, his alchemy level was not as good as Ningyu's. Secondly, he could easily defeat Situwen. If that was the case, Ningyu would easily defeat Situwen. Above you. Zhou Tong was slightly taken aback and asked, May I ask what grade are you? Zhou Tong did not finish his sentence, but his meaning was clear. He wanted to ask what grade Li Tongtian was. Li Tongtian did not answer Zhou Tong directly. Instead, he separated a bit of his soul power and pressed it towards Zhou Tong. 5. Feeling Li Tongtian's monstrous soul power, Zhou Tong had just said one word when he saw the expressions of the surrounding martial artists. He hurriedly covered his mouth. So he is a peak 5th grade elixir master. Zhou Tong was extremely shocked in his heart, shocked to the extreme. Li Tongtian was a peak 5th grade elixir master, but he said that Ningyu could easily defeat him. Didn't that mean that Ningyu was a 6th grade elixir master? Thinking of this, Zhou Tong was really dumbfounded. In the past, when he was in Tianxian City, Ningyu was only strong in the martial Dao. He didn't expect that during this period in the capital, Ningyu's alchemy Dao level would also become so heaven-defying. No wonder he could become a core disciple of the Sacred Institute of Danwu College. Situun, how much longer do you have to complete the pill? While Ningyu was refining the energy transformation pill, he did not forget to tease Situun. I advise you to speed up because I am almost done. Situun could not help but laugh out loud. He said darkly, there is no harm in telling you. I have at most 15 minutes to complete the pill. This means that you have 15 minutes to consider whether or not you want to admit defeat. You are still thinking about me admitting defeat? Ningyu was a little speechless. Situun was really possessed. Now, he still wanted him to admit defeat. I will definitely not admit defeat. Ningyu said, I am sorry, I still have 10 minutes to complete the pill. 10 minutes? If you can complete the pill in 10 minutes, I will twist my head off. No, if you can complete the pill in 10 minutes, I will give you another 50,000 supreme-grade crystals. Situun raised his eyebrows and said coldly, Are you for real? Ningyu said in a clear voice. There was a bit of excitement in his tone. This trip to the Alchemy Union was definitely worth it. First, he saved Zhou, and then won 100,000 transcendent-grade essence crystals from Zhao Bo. In addition to the 50,000 supreme-grade origin crystals that Situun had promised, he had earned a total of 150,000 supreme-grade origin crystals on this trip. He had really earned back everything. Really? Situun said in a deep voice, 10 minutes. As long as you can refine the energy transformation pill in the next 10 minutes, I will give you another 50,000 supreme-grade crystals. What's the harm? Ha ha ha, Situun, remember what you said? Ningyu laughed and threw the rest of the ingredients into the furnace. At the same time, he increased the flame and kept burning the furnace. Chi. With the increase of Ningyu's flame, the herbs that had just been thrown into the furnace were quickly burned to ashes. Ningyu's soul force had long entered the furnace. At this moment, he was quickly refining and compressing the medicinal liquid. Seeing Ningyu's swift movements, the surrounding warriors, including Situun, were all dumbfounded and confused. Ningyu, who was so slow just now, suddenly became like a different person. Why did his refining speed increase so much? Lost, Situun lost. In a room on the 8th floor of the Alchemy Union, the black-robed old man murmured, Situun's loss is not undeserved. Compared to Ningyu, his refining level might not be much worse, but his mentality is much worse. Chapter 569. Gulp, gulp. Ningyu's crazy actions caused Situun to be stunned. Situun even swallowed a mouthful of saliva. His Dan almost exploded. Ningyu can have really made the energy refining pill for Situun first, right? It's hard to say. At this rate, Ningyu will be able to form the pill in less than 10 minutes. That's right. In my opinion, the energy refining pill in Ningyu's cauldron is most likely not low-grade. Not low-grade? Then what rank is the energy refining pill? An alchemist asked. Middle grade. It might even be high grade. Voila! Hearing this, the surrounding cultivators widened their eyes, their faces filled with disbelief. High-grade energy refining pill? Ningyu could actually make a high-grade energy refining pill. And in such a short period of time. This was the most ridiculous. At that moment, everyone's gaze shifted to Ningyu, wanting to see if Ningyu could make a high-grade energy refining pill. Damn it! Everyone's attention was on Ningyu. Situun was furious, but there was nothing he could do. Now, he could only pray that Ningyu would fail while refining the energy refining pill. It would be best if the pill explodes. Situun thought to himself. Look, Ningyu is about to form the pill. Situun's curse did not have the slightest effect. Someone shouted. Even the martial artists outside the Alchemy Union stopped and looked at the Alchemy Hall. Situun, I might have to be one step ahead of you. While Ningyu was forming the pill, he did not forget to look at Situun and smiled. Prepare 50,000 Supreme Yuan crystals. I have a special characteristic. I want to get what I win as soon as possible. Humph. That will have to wait until you make what? Situ snorted coldly. It was obvious that he was being stubborn. As expected, before he could finish his sentence, a look of horror appeared on his face. Bang! Ningyu slammed his palm on the pill furnace, directly smashing the pill lid open. Shio! At the same time, a pill flew out from the pill furnace. Ningyu's eyes were sharp, and he quickly grabbed the elixir in his hand. It hasn't even been 10 minutes, and Ningyu has already completed the pill? That's way too perverted. Humph. Who knows, the medicinal pill in Ningyu's hand might not be an essence transformation pill, but a trash pill, Xiaobo said with a cold snort. He did not believe that Ningyu really refined an essence transformation pill. Idiot. At the side, Li Tongtian glanced at Xiaobo and said, "To think that you're a 5th-grade alchemist. You can't even differentiate the scent of the primary melting pill." You. Xiaobo was furious to be called an idiot by Li Tongtian. He took a step forward, wanting to teach Li Tongtian a lesson. Xiaobo was half a step into the yin-yang realm, while Li Tongtian was only at the pinnacle of the primal core realm. Based on cultivation alone, Li Tongtian might not be a match for Xiaobo. In reality, Li Tongtian could defeat Xiaobo with ease. Bang! As expected, Li Tongtian threw out a punch and it collided with Xiaobo's fist with no way to avoid it. A crisp sound rang out. Xiaobo was forced back several feet, only stabilizing himself when he reached the edge of the hall. You said that Ningyu refined a trash pill. What proof do you have? Compared to Xiaobo's situation, Li Tongtian was in a much better state. He shrugged and said, "Only someone like you would slander someone without proof." Sigh, Li Tongtian, don't be so sure. At this moment, Ningyu took a step forward and said, "Let him see if the pill in my hand is a trash pill." The next moment, Ningyu opened his palm slowly. Swoosh! This action of Ningyu immediately attracted the attention of the surrounding martial artists. Everyone turned to look at Ningyu's palm, wanting to see if Ningyu had refined a trash pill. Although Situ did not show it on the surface, he was extremely nervous on the inside. He could not afford to lose again. More accurately speaking, he could not afford to lose again. The 100,000 primal crystals that Xiaobo had lost to Ningyu were all his. If he lost again, he would have to give Ningyu 50,000 primal crystals. Now, he only had 30,000 primal crystals on him. If he lost again, where would he get the remaining 20,000 primal crystals? Therefore, he was constantly praying in his heart, praying that Ningyu was refining a useless pill. Whoosh! Following the exclamations of the surrounding martial artists, Situ knew that he had lost. He had lost completely. What? It's not an inferior grade essence transformation pill. Although he knew that he had lost, Situ still wanted to see what grade of essence transformation pill Ningyu had refined. When he saw the round pill in Ningyu's hand, his mouth opened wide enough to fit a fist. High-grade essence transformation pill. The quality of the essence transformation pill in Ningyu's hand had reached the high-grade level. Sarcasm, this was definitely Feng Zi. Situ felt his face burning, and he felt extremely uncomfortable. At the beginning, he had said to Ningyu that they would compete in refining high-grade essence transformation pills. Ningyu felt that it was a waste of time and requested to refine low-grade essence transformation pills instead. At that time, he had even laughed at Ningyu, thinking that Ningyu could not refine high-grade essence transformation pills. Looking at it now, it was really a form of sarcasm. That, Situ, do you want to check this essence transformation pill? Ningyu did not care what Situ was thinking. He only cared about his 50,000 primal crystals. There's no need to check. You are refining high-grade essence transformation pills. Situ felt very bitter in his heart. After saying that, he felt as if his body had been hollowed out. Then what are you waiting for? If you are willing to bet, you must accept your loss. Take out 50,000 primal crystals. Ningyu did not give Situ-Wen any face and said directly, I will naturally give you the primal crystals, but not now. Situ-Wen's eyes flickered and he said in a low voice, Tomorrow, during the alchemy competition tomorrow, I will personally hand over 50,000 primal crystals to you. Are you King kidding me? Ningyu frowned and his tone gradually became cold. If you don't have primal crystals, why are you betting with me? Do you think that this is the Alchemy Union and I dare not do anything to you? 50,000 transcendent grade essence crystals was not a small sum to the current Ningyu. Furthermore, Ningyu did not believe that Situ-Wen did not have 50,000 primal crystals. I will give you the primal crystals tomorrow. Situ-Wen said coldly, Why do you have to force me? I am a member of the Alchemy Union. Can I run away? Ningyu stared at Situ-Wen seriously, then nodded and said, That's possible. I'm really afraid that you'll run away. Come to the 8th floor of the Alchemy Union. I will repay 50,000 primal crystals on behalf of Situ-Wen. Suddenly, a voice rang out in the hall. The voice paused for a moment and continued, As long as you can come to the 8th floor of the Alchemy Union, not only will I return the 50,000 primal crystals that Situ-Wen lost to you, I will also allow you to enter the second round. Chapter 570. Force Swoosh. The sudden voice in the hall made the surrounding martial artists dumbfounded. The 8th floor of the Alchemy Union? Only the higher-ups of the Alchemy Union could go there. Could it be that the martial artist who just spoke was one of the higher-ups of the Alchemy Union? Thinking of this, all the cultivators in the hall looked at Ningyu in unison, wanting to see how Ningyu would react. However, Ningyu's reaction was beyond everyone's expectations. Situ-Wen, how many supreme grade essence crystals do you have? Ningyu did not want to stay here any longer. Naturally, he did not want to go to the 8th floor of the Alchemy Union. What Ningyu cared about now was whether he could get some supreme grade essence crystals from Situ-Wen. That was the most important thing. As for whether or not he could get the privilege to enter the second round of the competition, Ningyu did not care. The voice was right. With Ningyu's alchemy skills, he could definitely enter the second round. You! Ningyu didn't know who the martial artist was, but Situ-Wen clearly knew. If not for the fear of exposing the identity of the martial artist, Situ-Wen would have exploded. Even so, Situ-Wen said coldly, I will keep my word. Tomorrow, I will give you 50,000 supreme grade essence crystals. You keep your word. What does that have to do with me? Ningyu did not give Situ-Wen any face and said, Stop talking nonsense. Take out all the supreme grade essence crystals you have. We will talk about the rest tomorrow. I am so angry. As the third most talented genius in the Alchemy Union, Situ-Wen had never been bullied like this before. First, he lost to Ningyu in alchemy. Now, he was being mocked by Ningyu. He could not take it anymore. Since he couldn't tolerate it, Situ-Wen wouldn't tolerate it anymore. He wanted to teach Ningyu a lesson. Swoosh. In the next moment, Situ-Wen stomped on the ground and dashed towards Ningyu like a leopard. Situ-Wen dared to attack Ningyu? What's there to be afraid of? Ningyu doesn't give him any face at all. If it were me, I would also go berserk. No matter what, Situ-Wen is the one who owes Ningyu the transcendent grade Yuan crystal. Now that Situ-Wen has done this, he has really lost the face of the Alchemy Union. And that's true. Situ-Wen's actions are indeed a bit unkind. Seeing Situ-Wen launch an attack on Ningyu, the surrounding warriors burst into discussion. These discussions did not affect Situ-Wen. At this time, there was only one thought in his mind, and that was to teach Ningyu a lesson. Let Ningyu know why flowers are so red. Courting death. Even a clay figurine had a temper, let alone Ningyu. Situ-Wen owed him origin crystals and dared to attack him? After a cold grunt, the Yuan Qi in Ningyu's mind rushed out and wrapped around his wrist. In the next moment, Ningyu threw out a punch and it collided with Situ Wen's fist. Crack! The moment the two fists collided, a crisp sound rang out in the hall. Ah! Accompanying this crisp sound was a scream that sounded like a pig being slaughtered. What? This is impossible. Situ Wen is at the pinnacle of the primal core stage, and his actual strength is close to the beginner stage of the Yin-Yang stage. How could he not even withstand one blow from Ningyu? Isn't Ningyu a little too insane? Situ Wen's defeat made the surrounding martial artists somewhat dumbfounded. In their eyes, Situ Wen was one of the most powerful warriors of the younger generation in the capital. In terms of martial arts, he was at least in the top 10. However, Situ Wen, who was in the top 10, could not even withstand one blow from Ningyu. Furthermore, looking at Ningyu, it did not seem like he had used his full strength. He was still holding back. It was obvious that Ningyu still had some strength left. It was not hard to imagine that if Ningyu used his full strength, Situ Wen would probably die. Swoosh! Ningyu came to Situ Wen's side and started searching his body in front of everyone. After a while, Ningyu retracted his hand. In his hand was a storage bag. Not bad, there are 30,000 supreme grade yuan crystals. Ningyu released his senses and scanned the storage bag. He then nodded and said, I hope you will give me the remaining 20,000 supreme grade yuan crystals on time tomorrow. As he spoke, Ningyu kept the storage bag and gave Lu Wei and the rest a look before walking out of the Alchemy Union. Hee, it seems like my words are no longer effective since I have not been in the capital for so many years. As soon as Ningyu stepped out of the Alchemy Union, a chuckle rang out in the hall. Hearing the chuckle, Ningyu retracted his leg. An expert. An absolute expert. Previously, Ningyu was not sure what the cultivation level of the martial artist on the 8th floor of the Alchemy Union was, so he did not answer him. Now that he heard the chuckle, Ningyu was finally sure that the martial artist's cultivation level was at least at the peak Yin-Yang realm. It was even possible that he had reached the peak Yin-Yang realm like old He. With Ningyu's current strength, he would only be defeated if he faced a peak Yin-Yang realm martial artist. There was no way he could fight back. After all, the alchemy master was not around and the red demon sword was advancing. Ningyu's strength had dropped by at least 50%. I've thought about it. Although he was extremely shocked, Ningyu did not show it. Instead, he said calmly, I can ask for the supreme yuan crystals that Situ Wen owes me tomorrow. As for allowing me to enter the second round of the alchemy competition, I thank you for your kind intentions. You mean that you have to enter the third round? The voice from the 8th floor of the Alchemy Union sounded again. That's not necessary. I want to rely on my own strength to enter the third round or even the finals, Ningyu said. You have character. I will wait for you on the 8th floor of the Alchemy Union. Swoosh, swoosh. The moment the voice fell, two figures flew out from the second floor of the Alchemy Union and charged at Lu Wei at an astonishing speed. Damn it! Feeling the powerful aura from the two martial artists, Ningyu's face changed drastically. He quickly stood in front of Lu Wei and threw out two punches. Swoosh. However, just as Ningyu threw out his fist, his face changed drastically. He realized that the two figures had turned around and grabbed Zhou Tong and Feng Zi respectively. They were heading towards the second floor of the Alchemy Union. Swoosh. The sudden change caused Ningyu to be slightly dumbfounded, creating a diversion. He did not expect that the two martial artists would play this trick on him. However, even if Ningyu had thought of it, it would be difficult for him to block the two advanced Yin-Yang realm martial artists playing this trick. 8th floor of the Alchemy Union. See you there. At this moment, the voice from the 8th floor of the Alchemy Union sounded. Oh yes, the condition is that you must enter the 8th floor of the Alchemy Union. If you can't, I'm sorry to say that you can only wait until tomorrow to see your two friends. Chapter 571. Stripped bare a threat. A blatant threat. A threat from the higher-ups of the Alchemy Union. Ning Yu's expression was extremely ugly. He never expected that the Alchemy Union would make such a move against him. After kidnapping Zhou Tong and Feng Zi, he had to go to the 8th floor of the Alchemy Union, no matter what. Go, why don't you go? Why aren't you leaving now? At this moment, Situ Wen laughed sinisterly. The doors of the Alchemy Union are always open. You can leave now, no one will stop you. Crack crack. Ning Yu was already very frustrated. Situ Wen's actions were undoubtedly adding fuel to the fire. Ning Yu clenched his fists tightly and rose from the ground. In an instant, he was beside Situ Wen. Pung! The punch brought with it a violent yuan qi wind. Before Situ Wen could even react, the punch had already landed on his chest. The huge force from his chest caused Situ Wen to taste sweetness in his throat. At the same time, his body flew out of the Alchemy Union like a kite with a broken string. Crack! Situ Wen's body was rather tough. He had the upper hand in the collision with the ground, causing the limestone floor to crack. Li Tongtian, I need to trouble you with something. After knocking Situ Wen back, Ning Yu turned around and said, Situ Wen owes me 20,000 supreme grade yuan crystals. Go and see if he has any magical treasures or elixirs. Take them all. Oh yes, even his clothes. Understood. Li Tongtian had long been unhappy with Situ Wen. Now that he heard Ning Yu's words, he responded and slowly walked towards Situ Wen. What are you trying to do? Don't come over. Seeing Li Tongtian approaching him, Situ Wen shouted, This is the Alchemy Union, you can't. All right. You've said this more than 10 times. What's the point of saying it again? Li Tongtian interrupted Situ Wen and said calmly, Moreover, this is not the Alchemy Union. With that, Li Tongtian left the Alchemy Union and came to Situ Wen's side. It seems like Situ Wen has been beaten silly. Doesn't he know that he has been kicked out of the Alchemy Union by Ning Yu? That's right, Situ Wen is at the entrance of the Alchemy Union. Even if that Li Tongtian strips him naked, it has nothing to do with the Alchemy Union. I won't go as far as stripping him naked. To deal with this kind of person who adds insult to injury, I'll just strip him down to his underwear. He, the third-ranked genius among the younger generation of the Alchemy Union. If he were to be stripped to his underwear today, how would he be able to establish himself in the capital? Looking up at Li Tongtian, who was just inches away from him, Situ Wen's eyes were filled with despair. Hurry up. We still have to go to the 8th floor of the Alchemy Association later. Ning Yu frowned as he urged Li Tongtian to speed up. Whoosh! Just as Ning Yu finished speaking, Li Tongtian used both his hands and feet to tear off Situ Wen's clothes. Naturally, Situ Wen let out a blood-curdling scream like a pig being slaughtered. Indignant. Situ Wen was extremely indignant. An extremely vicious look appeared in his eyes, and he secretly made up his mind to make Ning Yu regret it no matter what method he had to use. He is indeed a poor bastard. No wonder he can't afford the 50,000 supreme grade yuan crystals. Li Tongtian's movements were swift as he quickly stripped Situ Wen down to his underwear. At the same time, there was a storage bag in Li Tongtian's hand. Inside the storage bag were the spoils of war that he had obtained from Situ Wen. Ning Yu, are you sure you want to use these items to exchange for the remaining 20,000 supreme grade yuan crystals? Li Tongtian came to Ning Yu's side and waved the storage bag in his hand as he asked. I am different from some people. I am a gentleman and I am a man of my word. Ning Yu glanced at Situ Wen, who was standing outside the Alchemy Union, and said calmly, From now on, the debt between me and a certain someone is written off. After finishing his sentence, Ning Yu walked towards the 2nd level of the Alchemy Union without looking back, leaving behind a dumbfounded crowd. Situ Wen, in particular, had a look of despair on his face. Ning Yu was a gentleman? If Ning Yu was a gentleman, then everyone in the capital was a gentleman. Would a gentleman do something like strip another person naked? The answer was obviously no. Ning Yu, are we really going to the 8th level of the Alchemy Union? At the entrance of the 2nd level of the Alchemy Union, Li Tongtian asked hesitantly, "What I mean is, are we just going to go there like this? If we don't go there like this, how else can we go there?" Ning Yu shrugged his shoulders and stepped into the 2nd level of the Alchemy Union. Halt! However, just as Ning Yu's right foot stepped into the 2nd level of the Alchemy Union, a voice rang in his ear. Shortly after, a middle-aged man gradually appeared in front of Ning Yu. Seeing the sudden appearance of the middle-aged man, Ning Yu was stunned for a moment. Then, he lifted his left foot and entered the 2nd level of the Alchemy Union. Seeing Ning Yu's actions, the middle-aged man's face turned gloomy. The middle-aged man still had some self-restraint and did not lose his temper immediately. Instead, he said in a deep voice, "This is the 2nd level of the Alchemy Union. Only martial artists whose soul power has reached the 2nd grade are allowed to enter. Come and test your soul power." The middle-aged man took out a crystal ball. It was clearly used to test one's soul power. "I am a very upright person. As long as you light up the 2nd spot on the crystal ball, you can enter the 2nd level of the Alchemy Union," the middle-aged man said as he passed the crystal ball to Ning Yu. "Upright my ass!" Ning Yu took over the crystal ball and said in an annoyed tone. Ning Yu did not believe that the middle-aged man did not know what happened on the 1st level of the Alchemy Union. He could even light up the 5th spot on Zhao Bo's crystal ball. Could it be that his soul power had not reached the 2nd grade? This was unreasonable. Although he was a little angry, Ning Yu did not take it to heart. Instead, he placed his right hand on the crystal ball and easily lit up the 2nd spot. Swoosh! After lighting up the spot, Ning Yu casually threw the crystal ball to the middle-aged man. However, the middle-aged man did not seem to have any intention of catching the crystal ball. Instead, he exerted a little force and pushed the crystal ball back to Ning Yu. "What is the meaning of this?" Ning Yu said in a deep voice. "Nothing much. It's just the butt of a turtle. Rules." The middle-aged man shrugged his shoulders and said, "All martial artists who enter the 2nd level of the Alchemy Union must have their soul power checked. Otherwise, they are not allowed to enter." Very well. Ning Yu did not argue with the middle-aged man. Instead, he threw the crystal ball to Li Tongtian. Li Tongtian's soul power was not much weaker than Ning Yu's. Lighting up the 2nd spot was naturally a piece of cake for him. As for Lu Wei, her soul power had also reached the 3rd grade. She easily lit up the 2nd spot. Let me give you a friendly reminder. Chapter 572. Two Cauldrons. The middle-aged man left Ning Yu with a back view as he headed towards the 3rd floor of the Alchemy Union. "Ning Yu, if you can't do it, I will wait for you here. You can go to the 8th level of the Union first." Hearing the middle-aged man's words, Lu Wei thought for a moment and said, "Nonsense." Ning Yu's tone turned cold as he scolded, "I will stop you. You just need to follow me obediently. You don't have to worry about anything else." Leaving Lu Wei here alone? What a joke. Ning Yu would never do such a stupid thing. Feng Zi and Zhou Tong were both brought to the 8th level of the Union. It was not hard to imagine that if Lu Wei stayed here, she would definitely be brought to the 8th level. Ning Yu had already seen the temper of the higher management of the Union. He did not want to take the risk. All right. Lu Wei's heart warmed. Since Ning Yu said so, she did not say anything else and followed closely behind Ning Yu. After a while, Ning Yu and the rest arrived at the entrance of the 3rd level of the Union. F***CK. Ning Yu raised his head to look at the man at the entrance of the 3rd level, and his mouth gaped as he said, "Why is it you again?" "Hee, it's still me." The middle-aged man revealed a standard smile. Ignoring the confusion in Ning Yu's eyes, he took out the crystal ball again and said, "It's the same principle. As long as you can light up the third dot, you can enter the third floor of the Alchemy Union. Ningyu glanced at the middle-aged man suspiciously and carefully lit up the third light spot in the crystal ball. Lu Xuan and Li Tongtian followed suit and lit up the third spot as well. Let me give you a friendly reminder. The middle-aged man kept the crystal ball and said, "The fourth level of the Union." Stop. I know what you want to say. Ningyu interrupted the middle-aged man and said, "I don't want to know the conditions to enter the fourth level." Excuse me. The middle-aged man was taken aback. Then, he moved his feet and opened up a path. Ningyu held Lu Wei's hand and walked past the middle-aged man. Although you have this kind of attitude towards me, I still have to kindly remind you, alchemy. After being stunned for a moment, the middle-aged man said in a clear voice. However, before he could finish his sentence, he saw Ningyu stop at the entrance of the fourth floor of the Alchemy Union. "I wish you good luck," the middle-aged man muttered to himself before disappearing. "To enter the fourth floor of the Alchemist Association, I need to fulfill 2 conditions." The guard on the fourth floor was obviously more reliable than the middle-aged man. He went straight to the point and said, "First, your soul force must reach the 4th grade. Second, you must refine a true martial pellet in front of me." Whoosh! Hearing this, Ningyu's expression turned a little ugly. He and Li Tongtian could easily refine a true martial pellet. However, Lu Wei's soul force was only at the early phase of the 3rd grade. How could she possibly refine a true martial pellet? In other words, no matter what condition it was, Lu Wei could not fulfill any of them. What if I insist on entering the 4th floor? Ningyu's face darkened. Smack. It's simple. The guard at the entrance snapped his fingers and said, "You can replace this lady to refine a true martial pellet." However, at this point the guard paused for a moment, then continued, "Since her soul power is not strong enough to reach the 4th level, and she can't refine a true martial pill, you need to refine a supreme true martial pill to be qualified." That simple? Ningyu raised an eyebrow in confusion. Simple? That's a true martial pellet. The guard flicked his sleeves and a storage pouch flew towards Ningyu. Seeing that Ningyu caught the storage pouch, the guard said, 2 batches of true martial pellets. Refine them within 10 minutes. As soon as he finished his sentence, the guard found a chair and sat down. He crossed his legs and stared at Ningyu. Based on Ningyu's alchemy skills, it was not difficult to refine a true martial pellet within 10 minutes. However, the most important thing was that Ningyu had to refine 2 batches of true martial pellets within 10 minutes. That would be more difficult. I wonder what kind of trouble Ningyu will encounter at the entrance of the 4th floor of the Union. Needless to say, they will definitely make things difficult for him. If it's just a simple test of soul force, Ningyu can at least enter the 5th floor of the Union. No, it should be the 7th floor. In the main hall of the Union, many martial artists were in a heated discussion. They could still see what happened to Ningyu on the 2nd and 3rd floor of the Alchemist Union. Ever since Ningyu arrived at the entrance of the Union's 4th floor, no one could see Ningyu's figure. Based on what had happened before, everyone guessed that Ningyu could enter the Union's 4th floor. It's not that easy to enter the Union's 4th floor. At this moment, Situ-Wen had found a shirt and put it on. He snorted and said, "If you want to enter the 4th floor, you need to fulfill 2 conditions." What conditions? Some martial artists who did not understand asked. First, your soul force must be at least grade 4. I do not deny that Ningyu can fulfill this condition, but the girl beside him cannot. Situ-Wen said gloomily. Second, he must refine a furnace of true martial dan. I do not deny that Ningyu can do it, but I will say the same thing, the woman beside him cannot do it. Is there any way to fix it? A grade 3 alchemist asked. Of course there is. Situ-Wen smiled and said coldly, within 10 minutes, refine a true martial pellet. Whoosh! As soon as Situ-Wen said this, the surrounding martial artists let out a series of exclamations. Refine a true martial pellet in 10 minutes? It seemed that with Ning Yu's alchemy skills, it was not difficult to do so. After all, Ning Yu could refine a high-grade essence melting pellet in 10 minutes. He should be able to refine a true martial pellet. Don't be too optimistic. I have one more thing to say. Siduan said again. Ning Yu needs to refine 2 batches of true martial pellets in 10 minutes, only then can he enter the Union's 4th floor. What? Refine 2 batches of true martial pellets in 10 minutes. In other words, Ning Yu needs 5 minutes to refine a batch of true martial pellets? Isn't this too ridiculous? That's right. Even a grade 6 alchemist would find it difficult to refine a batch of true martial pellets in 5 minutes. In fact, it was no wonder that the surrounding martial artists were shocked. They were all alchemists, so they naturally knew how difficult it was to refine a true martial pellet. Maybe Ning Yu could refine a batch of true martial pellets in 10 minutes, but to refine a batch of true martial pellets in 5 minutes was more difficult than reaching the sky. After all, these martial artists did not know about Ning Yu's feat when he was fighting against Yi Tian in Danwu College. When you leave helplessly later, I will humiliate you ruthlessly. Chapter 573. Ren Xiangtian's Bet Swoosh. At the same time, at the entrance to the 4th floor of the Union, Ning Yu looked at the guard who was crossing his legs and frowned. Is there any strict requirement for me to refine 2 sets of supreme-grade true martial pills within 10 minutes? Strict requirement? The guard raised an eyebrow and asked doubtfully. What I mean is, you want me to refine a few supreme-grade true martial pills, Ning Yu said. A few supreme-grade true martial pills? If you can refine 2 supreme-grade true martial pills within 2 sets of pills, you will pass, the guard said in disdain. If that's the case, if I can refine 2 supreme-grade true martial pills within 1 set of pills, does that mean I win as well? Ning Yu did not mind the guard's disdain and said calmly. Ha ha ha! The guard at the entrance to the 4th level roared with laughter when he heard Ning Yu, and then he said coldly, Have you lost your mind? Fine, since you're courting death yourself, you can't blame me. I don't care what method you use, as long as you can refine 2 supreme-grade true martial pills within 10 minutes, you will be able to enter the 4th floor of the Union. After getting the confirmation, Ning Yu ignored the guard and turned to Li Tongtian. Lend me an alchemy cauldron. I want to refine the true martial pills. Hold on. Before Li Tongtian could take out his alchemy cauldron, the guard at the entrance said, Ning Yu, I'm giving you a chance. The lady next to you is only a 3rd-grade alchemist. With her ability, she won't even be able to enter the 5th or 6th floor, let alone the 8th floor. If you can refine 1 set of supreme-grade true martial pills within 10 minutes, I will give you special permission to enter the 7th floor of the Union. As soon as the guard finished speaking, he looked at Ning Yu and quietly waited for Ning Yu's reply. Special permission to enter the 7th floor? Ning Yu was slightly stunned when he heard this, and then he said, Is that true? Of course. The guard nodded. No problem, I agree to your request. With that, Ning Yu ignored the guard and poured out all the medicinal ingredients in his storage bag. Seeing Ning Yu's actions, Li Tongtian hurriedly flicked his sleeves and retrieved a pill furnace for Ning Yu. The alchemy furnace that Li Tongtian had given to Ning Yu wasn't of a high quality. In fact, it wasn't even on the Earth list of alchemy furnaces. For Ning Yu, any kind of alchemical furnace was the same. In any case, he had already refined the true martial Dan many times, so his requirements for the alchemical furnace were not that high. Moreover, for him, in 10 minutes, he could easily refine a batch of transcendent-grade true martial Dan. Ning Yu threw the alchemy furnace on top of his head. His left and right hands worked at the same time, grabbing the herbs and throwing them into the alchemy furnace. Whoosh! While Ning Yu was refining the true martial Dan, in a room on the 8th floor of the Alchemy Union, There were a total of 3 martial artists in the room. Other than the old man in black, there were 2 other young martial artists. If Ning Yu was here, he would definitely recognize that one of the young martial artists was none other than Ren Xiangtian. Look, Ning Yu defeated Situwen with ease. In this alchemy competition, he will definitely be your strongest opponent. The old man in black pointed to the crystal wall and said, "Know yourself and know your enemy, and you will never miss a battle. Take a good look and see if Ning Yu can refine a transcendent grade true martial dan in 10 minutes. President Peng Zhou, back at Tianyuan Tower, Ning Yu and I were competing to see who could refine the transcendent grade true martial dan first. Looking at the projection on the crystal wall, Ren Xiangtian said, "At that time, Ning Yu seemed to have spent less than 10 minutes to refine a transcendent grade true martial dan." Humph. Ren Xiangtian, don't flatter others and belittle yourself. Before the old man in black could say anything, another young martial artist next to Ren Xiangtian snorted and said, "If Ning Yu can refine a transcendent grade true martial dan in 10 minutes, I will give you the soul-nourishing pill I got last time. If Ning Yu can't refine a transcendent grade true martial dan in 10 minutes, I will take your upper grade heaven grade flying sword." "Fine, Zhao Kuo, don't think I'm afraid of you," Ren Xiangtian said coldly. He did not believe that Ning Yu would lose. "Ha ha, I was fooled." The corner of Zhao Kuo's mouth curved up as he let out a wild laugh and said, "Not to mention Ning Yu, even President Peng can't guarantee that he can concoct a supreme grade true martial pill within 10 minutes. Zhao Kuo added, "Oh, that's right, we'll use the medicinal ingredients Ning Yu has." "President Peng, what the hell is going on?" Ren Xiangtian asked in confusion. "There's something wrong with the medicine that Ning Yu has, and it was me who ordered him to do it." Peng Zhou waved his hand and said, "It's impossible to refine a transcendent grade true martial dan with that medicine. Even I can't do it." "What do you think, Ren Xiangtian? Don't say that I'm bullying you. It's not too late for you to back out now." Zhao Kuo looked at Ren Xiangtian provocatively. "Humph. Since I've promised you, I won't go back on my word." Ren Xiangtian snorted. "You're so stubborn. I'll make you cry later." Zhao Kuo laughed coldly, as if Ren Xiangtian's upper-grade heaven-ranked flying sword was already in his possession. "What the f***ck? I'll just pretend that my upper-grade flying sword was stolen by a dog." Ren Xiangtian was extremely frustrated. At the same time, Ren Xiangtian had some complaints about Peng Zhou. After all, Peng Zhou didn't tell him when he made the bet with Zhao Kuo, and only told him after he agreed. Wasn't he trying to set him up? However, Peng Zhou was the president of the Alchemy Union, so he dared not say anything. "Fight with me? Don't you know what relationship I have with Peng Zhou? I'm his only disciple," Zhao Kuo said darkly. Whoosh! At that moment, at the entrance of the 4th floor of the Alchemy Union, Ning Yu gradually increased his speed. Within 3 minutes, he had thrown all the medicinal ingredients into the furnace. At the same time, Ning Yu increased the intensity of the flame, burning the bottom of the furnace. "Li Tongtian, do you think Ning Yu can refine a transcendent grade true martial dan in 10 minutes? Lu Wei looked at Ning Yu worriedly and asked hesitantly. Lu Wei did not know what happened at Tianyuan Hotel, so she was worried about whether Ning Yu could refine a transcendent grade true martial dan. "Don't worry, 10 minutes is more than enough." Lu Wei did not know about Ning Yu's feat, but Li Tongtian was well aware of it. From Li Tongtian's point of view, it was hard to find a young alchemist who could beat Ning Yu in alchemy in such a big city. Even with those genius alchemists who lived in seclusion, Ning Yu could still be ranked in the top 3, and was a strong contender for first place. But Lu Wei wanted to say something, but she saw Furball poking its head out from her arms. Woof woof. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.